I can't believe this has happened. People are greedy and stupid, and stuff like this happens, I guess, all the time, unfortunately.
Please note that this content is for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, like, and share. Check, sound check, mic check. Hello everyone and welcome back to another live stream with me, Grizzly K. This is Grizzly True Crime. Happy Friday to you if you're only joining now, or if you're watching the replay, thank you for watching that. So today we're going to be looking at day 8 of the Jessy Kurczewski trial. Did any of you, actually saw there were a few of you, that went and watched day 7 with all the receipts, because I gave you an unlisted link on the last live stream in the pinned comments if you want to watch the entire defluffed labor of love that I made for you. Okay? So, you're like, hello everyone, hello. Lolly says anxious. Are you anxious? I hope you're not anxious. I hope you guys are having a very good Friday. Thank you for being here. Welcome to all my mods. Thank you for everything you do. Welcome to all my patrons. If you haven't made it over to Patreon yet, please do check it out. We are a growing Patreon community of Grizzlies, and we've got a community chat over there as well. You might be interested in that. And, of course, welcome to all my subscribers, the OGs, and everyone that's new. Objection 23 and I says, I did. Did you? Did you watch all of it? Now, I'm going to give you a little summary in case maybe some of you didn't see yesterday's stream. We did a real big defluff. So I just want to show you this article right here from Court TV, actually. They made some bullet points, which I love bullet points, as you know. So let's go like this. Just so we can go over some of the things that were said on day 7. Because we looked at the calls. We listened to the calls yesterday. And I took out the most exciting bits of yesterday's trial for us. The rest was really just a lot of receipts. My goodness. So, day 7... They said Waukesha Sheriff's Office Detective Nathan Pianist spent the day testifying to the financial transactions and documents that he reviewed as part of the investigation into the case. His investigation began in 2016, as you may know. I hope you are aware. If not, read the case background in the description box or check out day 1 and 2's presentation times. When you have the streams, we've been going over the recaps quite a bit. Lynn Hernan died on October 3rd of 2018, but it is alleged that Jessy Kurczewski was already stealing her money from around 2016, and that's when they started noticing all these anomalies in her accounts and all these different credit cards, you know, many credit cards, lots of loans, lots of things being taken out in her name. Some along with Jessy Kurczewski's name. But yeah, she pretty much spent all her money. So they say his investigation began in 2016 at the start of Jessy and Lynn's relationship. Of 22 checks cut from Lynn's MMA opened October 1st, 2014, with a $250,000 inheritance from her mother, 20 of them. So out of 22 checks, 20 of them went to Jessy Kurczewski. In all, $337,000 was signed over to Jessy from the MMA account. The final, oh my word, like $135K. And the final balance was $88. Yes. We were asking the other day, how much was left in Lynn's account after Jessy had spent everything? $88. She spent Lynn's parents' inheritance money. Oh, man. So then, irregular transactions, PNS noted, were at Scotty's Pub, a bar and casino that Lynn never frequented, as well as 61 cash withdrawals. Lynn, Jessy, Jennifer Flower, who's Jessy's mom, and Anthony Poser all had access to Lynn's safety deposit box, but Jessy is the only one who ever visited and accessed it before Lynn's death. Jessy gave Anthony Poser multiple fake receipts having to do with Lynn's estate account. Oh my goodness, Susan, thank you so much from the UK. We got $49.99 British pounds. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and thank you for being a member and supporting the channel. Yes, just a crazy Swifty says, I thought it was $250 at least, which would have been horrible enough. $88 from $250,000 to $88. Horrible stuff, yes. Okay, so Essen, I'm glad you're back. Thank you for being back. You said, are we going to watch the interrogation now? We're going to be watching day 8 of the trial. That's what we are doing here today. So we'll be looking at day 8. I'll just give you I've defluffed again, okay? So I've already uploaded the video. In the pinned comments will be the entire 5 hours. What we're going to do is teleport ourselves forward. The first 2 hours, we're going to just teleport ourselves forward, full throttle in our teleportation machine, because, of course, it was the cross-examination about those same receipts. You know, it's receipt after receipt after receipt, and, of course, 2 hours was spent on the cross-examination on, so do you think that was an anomaly? And what about this? And how do you know Lynn didn't spend that? And how could you prove that? All of that. So, not the most interesting, although very important to the case that I do understand. So day 8, they said Detective Nathan Pien has returned to the stand for cross-examination. He said he did not investigate Lynn Hernan's pattern of life prior to 2016, because that's obviously what they went. So you started looking in 2016. What about before then? So he said he didn't before 2016. Lynn had close to $350,000 in her deposit accounts in 2014. Lynn applied for a $15,000 loan that was possibly denied. There's no record the loan was deposited into any of her accounts. The FBI was brought into the investigation to analyze handwriting samples. So they were brought in, because I know everyone was saying they should have had that. They did. Waukesha Sheriff's Detective Brian Fredericks, a digital forensic analyst, testified that he analyzed Scott Craig and Jessy Kurczewski's cell phones. We're going to look at some of those messages today. We're also going to be looking at some of the police interview, another one of Jessy Kurczewski's police interviews. And it continues on through day 9. So today, we're going to be looking at, out of 5, it was an 8.5 hour day. I've defluffed it to 5 hours, and we're going to be watching the 3 hours, the last 3 hours of my defluff together. If you want to watch the whole defluffed production, it will be available to you. It's already uploaded to the channel. I'm going to put in the pinned comments and the description box as a unlisted link, okay? If you want to catch the defluff first 2 hours. No paper flapping, as little coughing and sniffing as possible, and teleporting right through all the breaks. So that's what we'll be doing now. Let me get the video for you. There we go. This is what I'll show you the beginning of the day, just so you get the idea of how it went. And then we're going to teleport ourselves forward by 2 hours. We're going to apply our full throttle. All Grizzlies on board. Are you ready? Okay, let's do it like this. I'll make myself a little bit smaller. And of course, we want that lovely picture of Lynn here, which is a very beautiful picture, right? And if you've seen, there's very few pictures available online of Lynn. But this one, Grizzly Cat actually made for us by just touching it up a little bit, which looks really, really nice. Okay. I just want to quickly see something. One second. Okay, yeah, that's still fine. All right. Yeah, Grizzly defluff. Are we ready? So this is how the day started. Let's listen a bit.
Well, let's do that. Then we'll go on the record. Thank you. I'll call State of Wisconsin versus Jessy Kurczewski, case number 21 CF 885. May I have the appearances, please?
Good morning, Judge Randy Sitzberger, Abby Nikolai, and J.J. Crawford for the state.
Your Honor, good morning. Donna Kukler, Pablo Galaviz, and Brad Navreski appear with Jessy Kurczewski.
All right, off the record, Attorney Kukler, you indicated there was...
So, Brian Navreski. It sounded like Navreski, not Nebraski. I was trying to look up his name. I couldn't find the way to spell his last name there online. But he is the other defense attorney that's there with Donna and Pablo. And he did this full cross-examination here on this day.
Some matters you wanted to address outside the presence of the jury?
Yes, Your Honor. We either last night submitted or it'll be pulled through this morning a request for Your Honor to sign a subpoena to DHS that will be to obtain Lynn Hernan's Quest records, because we have knowledge that she was in fact receiving food stamps, and the detective testified yesterday that she wasn't. So we're asking the court to sign the subpoena so that we can obtain those records. The second thing that's going to be coming through is a request for you to sign documents so that we can obtain records from Lynn's Department of Correction records. And the records themselves.
Renee, you say a new defense attorney? I must have missed that. They actually present, I don't know what the right legal word is now. He was added, she showed up the other day as part of the team. I'm sure he's always been part of the case, but he was in court the other day as well. And it seemed like he is more of the pro to ask financial questions.
Although I understand wouldn't be necessarily admissible, those records will show that Lynn received help from a social worker at the prison to apply for her disability benefits. The detective testified yesterday that the money that was going into her account every month was from regular Social Security, when in fact it was from disability benefits. So
just throw the victim under the bus some more, because, you know, according to them, it's like she's the one on trial, right? I do not know if Lynn ever was in prison or what she was in prison for. I don't know why they have to bring this up here, because that's not who's on trial. She's the victim of a homicide. The orphan, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. I also don't know if I completed my sentence there, you guys. Today, we're going to be looking at Jessy's, some of her cell phone activity, little app that she had on her phone to pretend she had another cell phone number, some text messages between her and her ex-boyfriend, who was a boyfriend at the time, of course. And then we'll be looking at some police interviews. But the thing is that it went on so long that for day 9, so meaning tomorrow, that'll be Saturday if you are watching live with us, we're going to have a lovely time together on Saturday watching more police interviews, which I think is sometimes part of my favorite part of the trial, to see like what did they say, especially because detectives didn't tell her that they knew Lynn died from tetrahydrozoline poisoning, so they just let her talk, you know. It was very interesting. So we're going to watch day 8 today. It's too long to continue on now with day 9. So we're going to today is day 8, and tomorrow we meet again to look at day 9. And then we'll probably see each other again on Tuesday. I'm not too sure when, of course. When will they be resting their case? When will the defense take over? Will Jessy take the stand? Let me know what you think in the comments here.
We're asking that you sign those when they are pulled through. And we just wanted to give you a heads up for the reason for them. We're asking that they come to the court rather than directly to us, and then the court can provide them hopefully to us in the manner that you think is appropriate.
Okay. Sorry, jury was entering, and obviously we weren't planning for that yet, but understandable since Madam Clerk was asking if they were there. I don't believe we have anything in the queue just yet.
Should be coming in any minute.
All right, I'll have Madam Clerk keep an eye out for those, and then I can review them at a break. And obviously the state hasn't seen them yet to take a position one way or the other. So I'll just take that under advisement at this point in time, and we'll wait till those are filed and we have an opportunity to review. Any other issues I need to address?
Not from us.
All right. Anything? I think the state said no, but I'll just, I may not have asked you. I think I asked you off the record, but anything from the state?
Still a no, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. Okay, then. Now we'll have the jury brought out.
Look, 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 I put a new teleportation effect on for us. So when you see that, you know we're teleporting.
Thank you, everyone. Please be seated.
She's looking extra extra, I don't know what, sweet today. Ooh, I don't even like saying that about her. With her cross fully out. She's well behaved for the day 8. Here we go. We're talking about the defendant there.
Well, at least now you know there's proof, right? That when you're not in here at 8:30, it doesn't mean we're just sitting here. We've heard on the record. No, I know. You all know that. All right. Then this morning we will start with the cross-examination of Detective Plennis. Detective Plennis, please make your way to the witness stand. It is day 2, so I'll have Madam Clerk swear you in. For our members of our jury, I know you've met him previously, but Attorney Brad Navrosky will be doing the questioning today.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Normally I chop that right out. We just get to it. But okay. So the judge said this is day 2, meaning it's day 2 for this witness to be on the stand. It is 2 hours and 15 minutes of cross-examination. As I said, I'm just going to show you some of it now, and then we're going to teleport at full throttle forward to the next witness.
Thank you, sir. Please have a seat. And just for the record, so it's in the transcript, just state your first and last names.
And she's back.
Nathan, Nathan, Plennis, Plennes.
Thank you. Go ahead, Attorney Navrosky.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Detective. Thanks for joining us here again.
Good morning.
Yesterday, you testified that you reviewed all of the financial documents in this case, correct?
Correct.
That included all the bank records that were provided through subpoenas, both the original subpoenas that I believe you did not personally do, and then additional ones that occurred in, I think, 2021. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you relied on these in creating your various demonstrative exhibits. Is that fair?
That's fair.
And I believe out of the exhibits that you had, the state introduced Exhibit 98, which was Lynn's account records for the money market account from BMO Harris that ended in 7601. Is that true?
Yes, she had the account in 7601.
And then you spoke about records from the account ending in 5336 that were introduced as State's Exhibit 117, correct?
Correct.
Isn't it true that Lynn had 2 additional checking accounts in her name that BMO Harris provided records to you on pursuant to that subpoena?
I believe there were 2 other accounts, yes, from BMO Harris that were provided.
Now, one of those was an account that ended in 5158. Is that correct?
I would have to see the records. I know there were 2 other accounts that were older, but yes, I don't know the exact account number of that one, of those 2.
That's fair. May I approach you?
You may. You have that marked, please.
It's marked at 599.
Just quickly answering a question. Look at her. Oh my goodness. What a place to pause, huh? Someone was asking in chat now, why are there 2 streams for day 7? There are not 2 streams. There was 1 stream and we defluffed it. We didn't want to sit for 7 hours looking at receipt after receipt after receipt after receipt like that. Another receipt, another one for 7 hours. So I spared you that. And for those of you who want to still see it, I uploaded a defluffed version anyway, which is about 6 hours long or so for you to watch. So there's not 2 days, there's not 2 streams. There's 1 uploaded video on the playlist, I think, for you, which is where you're finding it, right? 5 hours, 57 minutes after receipt, and another one. And today it's day 8. Okay. Oh, goodness. Okay, let's continue.
And I can also pull it up on the screen so it's not published to the jury yet here in a second. Can you make sure I scroll?
Again, I'm just giving you a snippet of how this cross-examination goes, and then we're going to teleport forward, okay? Also, I forgot to mention, thank you to everyone who subscribed because we've reached a new milestone. We're now at 240K, which is wonderful. A growing community of Grizzlies. Everybody kind of knows us everywhere we go. You guys always share your bear emojis and stuff, which some people get annoyed by, but we don't mind. We're a very passionate bunch. Thank you always for representing the Grizzlies everywhere you go. I love seeing the trial stream. Sometimes it's like, hey, are there any Grizzlies in here? And then you all talk to each other. It's very cute. I'm always lurking on lots of trials and lots of content. And I see you guys everywhere. It's really nice. So 240K of us. Grizzlies strong. Let's keep going.
Exhibit 599, which I'm showing you, is it up on your screen as well now?
No.
Could we also publish to the witness, please?
Go ahead.
And this is identical. I just thought the paper copies might also be easier for you to go through.
I appreciate that.
What I'm showing you is statements from each of Lynn's checking accounts. The earliest date we have records, which I believe is June 2016 for each of them. Or 2014, I'm sorry. Did you review the records that you obtained that included these exhibits? They would not have been in order. They would have been at the start of each of the accounts informations within the same return?
Yes.
Okay. And
I know I've only shared a little bit, but you can see what I mean. They're now going to go over all the receipts, a lot of them that they went over the day before, which was 7 hours of direct examination about Lynn's accounts. Because what they're trying to, of course, show to the jury is Jessy's facing 3 charges, first-degree murder, and then 2 counts of felony fraud. And so they're trying to, of course, include that, evidence so that they can make a decision on each of those charges. So they're going to do, now this is cross-examination of the same witness yesterday that they went through all the receipts with and the charts and everything. And really, it was very well done. It's just maybe slightly boring for the average person. For majority of us, it will be like, we'll be clocking out, or, you'll be like, oh my word, can we move on? So we're going to move on. It is available though. If you do want to see it, I'm going to pin it in the comments for you. Now we're going to go to, so basically I've got everything written here for you. From 4 minutes to 1:45 is cross-examination. From 1 hour 45 to 2 hours and 3 minutes is redirect. And then from 2 hours and 3 minutes to 2:13 is sidebar discussions. Nothing really of interest there for us. I just mean to watch. It's not really snarky or spicy. There's nothing really much. It's just about exhibits and receipt numbers and things. And so now we're going to go to 2 hours and 13, teleporting forward. Are we ready? And we'll watch the rest of this day. So I'm going to go to right over here. Wait. Let's go from here to 12:51. Okay? So if you haven't yet, if you do like the defluffed trial footage, give this video a like. If you wouldn't mind sharing as well, you can use hashtag, and I challenge you to spell the name right, Jessy Kurczewski trial. That's a hashtag that I've started using, every time I share our streams, I put that on X, so at least you can look at that hashtag and find all the streams. You could say hashtag Grizzly True Crime as well, and hashtag Justice for Lynn Hernan, Lynn, L-I-N-N. Okay, yeah, defluff timestamps and teleport timestamps. That's right, Janet. Now, let's watch from here. We'll be watching the rest of this day together from 2 hours 12 to 5:01. Okay, here we go.
Language about the timing of when these things can be produced electronically in lieu of a personal appearance.
correct.
Okay, great. Then I think we are in compliance with the statute then. All right, then with that, we'll bring the jury out. You can call your next witness from the state. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. The state may call its next witness.
Thank you, Judge. State calls Detective Fredericks.
First thing I will ask you to do is to state your first and last names for the record and spell each.
Brian, B-R-I-A-N, Fredericks, F-R-E-D-E-R-I-C-K-S.
Thank you. Go ahead, your witness.
Thank you, Judge. Detective Fredericks, where do you work?
For the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department.
How long have you been there?
13 years.
Okay. What is your current role with the Sheriff's Department?
I'm a detective.
Okay. Is there any special unit that you're in?
Not at this time.
Okay. Have you ever done work in the Sheriff's Department's forensic lab?
I have.
And what is that lab for?
That's a computer and phone forensics lab where we would examine cell phones and computer devices based on the investigator's needs.
When were you in that position?
I started in that position towards the end of 2012, and I remained there until spring of 2020.
Okay. Do you have some special training in order to perform duties in the lab?
I do, yes.
Okay. Do you also have all the law enforcement training required to be a certified law enforcement officer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Could you just briefly describe what some of that more specialty training is, maybe where it took place, what it was about?
Sure. I took computer forensics training at various locations. Digital Intelligence in New Berlin hosts various schools on computer forensics. They also hosted a 5-day phone forensics class that I attended, and that was based on Celebrite phone forensic software. I'd attended additional training down in Alabama at the National Computer Forensics Institute, also on computer and phone-related forensics.
Okay. When you were working within the lab at the Sheriff's Department, how many detectives were in there doing that type of work?
Generally, it was myself and one other detective.
Okay. What...
I'm just going to pause for a second. I missed Caroline's comment earlier saying, my opinion, they should have done a finances trial and a separate unlawful life-ending trial. They could drag in others' mom for finance trial. Instead, looks like they let the mom slide. That's true. That's true as well. Yes, and that was Willow. If you guys have never met Willow, that's Fury's sister, Willow.
Where does the Sheriff's Department get devices in terms of what you're required to download in the lab?
So investigators, detectives, or officers, deputies will bring in devices from their investigations either by way of a search warrant or consent from the owner of the vehicle, of the device.
Okay. Is your lab at the Sheriff's Department limited to submissions from Sheriff's Department personnel?
No.
Could you explain that, please?
Yes, we have. We work with a lot of agencies in and around Waukesha County that don't have dedicated and trained phone and computer forensic training, so they rely on the Sheriff's Department to assist with those investigations.
When you were in the lab, did you carry a caseload of criminal investigations as well?
No.
Why not?
My focus and my specialty was in computer and phone forensics, and there is so much in the way of devices coming in for examinations that there really isn't any time for casework per se. Okay.
So when a device is given to you, how do you know what to do with it?
The investigator will bring it in and explain to myself or the other detective assigned to that position the nature of the case and whether it's a search warrant or a consent search, and specifically what they're looking for from that device.
On July 9th of 2018, did you take part in a search warrant?
I did.
Were there devices recovered during that search warrant?
Yes, there were.
Was one of those devices a cell phone?
Yes.
And did you learn that that phone belonged to a Scott Craig?
I did.
Were you asked to analyze that in the lab?
Yes.
I'd like to show just the witness exhibit 169, please. And Detective, let me know when that's on the screen before you.
It is up.
And if we scroll to page 2 of exhibit 169. Detective, is that a 2-page exhibit?
It appears so, yes.
What is it?
This looks like a Celebrite report from the phone extraction.
Looking specifically at page 2, can you tell what device was downloaded?
Yes, this is Scott's iPhone.
Okay. Do you know who conducted the download of that device?
That would have been me.
Okay. Does exhibit 169 appear to be a fair and accurate copy of the first 2 pages of that download?
So they did a search warrant on July 9th of 2019, and it was at the apartment where Jessy was staying with her boyfriend, Scott. And remember, she told him that Lynn had been in a coma for 5 months before she died, which turned out to not be true, and he didn't know that until that day when Jessy was arrested. And then he asked questions, and like, she was never in a coma. Sure, that was a big shock. We saw him on the stand already. Can't remember quite which day. I think it was day 5 or 6. And so that's what they're talking about here. So if you hear Scott Craig, that was Jessy's boyfriend at the time.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd move exhibit 169 into evidence. Ask for permission to publish.
No objection.
Exhibit 169 is received, permission to publish granted.
Is this the way that most extraction reports begin if they're created in your department?
That's how they were when this report was created.
Fair. If we go to page 2 and we zoom in on the top summary piece, Detective, does this summary area indicate when this report was created?
Yes,
It's another one of those days where some of the exhibits are really hard to see, and I really try to darken it, but it's so bright. I mean, we can see a little bit here. Detective Brian Fredericks, Computer Forensics Lab, Scott's iPhone, death investigation.
It does.
And what is that date?
The report creation time shows July 22nd of 2019.
And then a couple boxes down, is that your name, Detective Brian Fredericks?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at the bottom row of that box, there's notes in that. What does that say?
States Scott Craig's iPhone and Detective Hoppe.
Do you know why Detective Hoppe's name is on there?
Because he was the detective assigned as the lead investigator.
Okay. I'd like to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 170. It's a CD, and I'm going to hand this to you, Detective, and I'd like to ask if you recognize what it is.
I do recognize this.
What is it?
That is a disc that has our incident report number on it, and it also indicates that it is Scott Craig's Apple phone containing a Celebrate report.
The same report that begins on Exhibit 169?
Correct.
Okay. Have you actually looked on that physical CD to make sure that that's what's on there?
I have, yes.
Are your initials on there for that reason?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll take 170 back from you. I will move 170 into evidence to ask for permission to publish.
All right, continue, please.
Okay, we teleported through that sidebar there. Here we go.
And 170 is received.
Thank you.
And permission to publish is granted.
Now, Detective, in terms of all the jury can see in my hand here is a CD, right?
Correct.
Is it fair to say that there's a lot of files on here from the download you did?
Yes.
Is it only from the one phone that they're looking at described on Exhibit 169?
That's correct.
So would it be fair to say that Exhibit 169 and 170 go together? This is essentially the first piece of what's on here?
That's correct.
Okay. So I'm going to just paperclip these together and set them up here. Now, if you could explain to the jury generally the process that you used to download this phone, and we can take the publish down.
So when a phone is received, one of the first things that is done is we put it into airplane mode, which prevents a couple things. It prevents the phone from ringing or receiving text messages, and we...
Just gonna pause for a second. Don't we just love these moments in a trial when it's like, ooh, what did you do with the phones? What messages did they send? What were the Google searches? You know, we're gonna find out all. I mean, a phone, there's a lot of information on it, right? Betty B says, oh, whoa, didn't think I'd be teleporting on a Friday night. You've got weekend plans. And so, yeah, you guys, you've got weekend plans tomorrow too, if you want to have. If you want to get out of a social engagement, you've got plans tomorrow. We'll be watching police interviews and teleporting. Also, I just quickly want to say thank you to those of you who are sending PayPals. I really, really appreciate it. It's the #1 way to support the work I do because it's direct, okay? YouTube takes 50%, and then there's tax as well, another 30 to 50%. So at the end of the day, the content creator doesn't really get much of that support, you know what I mean? But for you guys that have sent, especially recently, I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, are we ready now to deep dive? Jesse and Shane. Unfortunately, Scott's phone as well. This guy must have been so shocked. I don't know if you saw him on the stand. If you did, if you remember, I mean, he looked very sad and he must have a lot of trust issues now. So the damage goes far in cases like this. So here we go. Let's continue on.
Set the phone settings within the phone up so that it'll communicate with the software on the forensic phone computer, and we'll essentially trust that computer so that it will extract the data from it to our phone PC.
During this process, are you able to alter data on the device through your software?
Yes and no.
Okay.
The phone is altered in that it will show that it was connected to our device for that extraction. It doesn't alter or change any of the user's data. It doesn't manipulate timestamps or things like that.
Is that very important in the work that you did within the lab?
Yes.
Why?
Because we want to work just based off the information and not adjusting or not touching files on the phone itself and changing access dates or times.
Okay. Now I'd like to show just the witness exhibit 167, please.
Let's hope we can see it nicely. Steel Guitar says, I've been a Grizzly for 3 months. Yay, I so love the Grizzly family, and I doubt I'll ever watch a trial elsewhere. Thank you, G. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being a supporter for 3 months. And I just want to say, of course, I wish I could cover all the trials. You know what I mean? There's so many trials going on right now. I know there's a Take Care of Maya trial. There's the Charlie Adelson trial. There's this trial. There's so many all the time. And I wish I had a couple of clones so that I wish we could sit here all day, every day looking at these trials together. But, you know, unfortunately we can't. I already am working 12 to 14-hour days doing this type of production for you. And then I'm still trying to lurk on other trials because I'm very interested. I'm very interested in all these cases. So just know, I do wish I could. It's not because I don't want to, okay? But this is now day 8 of this trial out of about 15. They said the trial would last about 15 days, which I assume would be 15 court days. So we're just getting over the halfway mark now.
And detective, let me know when that's up in front of you.
I have it.
Okay. Is that also a 2-page exhibit?
It is.
And going to page 2, does the second page show, give you some information about what exhibit 167 is?
It does, yes.
And do you recognize these 2 pages in exhibit 167?
Yes, ma'am.
What is it?
This would be another Celebrate extraction report.
Do you know whose phone this was for?
I do. The case name has our incident report number with an underscore, and then it says Jesse's LG K540.
Okay. Does this look like a fair and accurate copy of the first 2 pages of the report you generated for this phone?
Yes, it does.
I'd move exhibit 167 into evidence, ask for permission to publish.
No objection.
167 is received. Permission to publish granted.
And if we can flip back up to page 1, please. Detective, is this, again, that familiar face sheet that you saw on the previous exhibit?
Yes, it is.
So going to page 2, and again, if we could zoom in on the summary piece of it. Detective, could you tell the jury when you created this report?
Yes. This report was created July 16th, 2019.
Similarly with this report, is Detective Hoppe referenced?
He is.
And you indicated, could you circle there where you read the device or the case name? Okay. We can take that down. Thank you. I'd like to show you 168, which is another CD.
A CD. Why are they using CDs? Where's your flash drives? Heather N says, starting a Grizzly clone fund. Thank you so much, Heather. And of course, you guys, there's a difference in watching all the trials and doing the productions and presenting all the trials with makeup on, sitting in front of the camera the whole time. I wish I could cover them all. But we're covering this one now, and we're lurking. I'm lurking on all the others. I'm watching the others too.
I'll ask you to recognize that disc.
Yes, I do.
Have you ever seen that actual CD before?
Yes, I have.
How do you know?
Because my initials are on the front of the disc.
Okay. What is contained on that disc?
That would be the phone download from Jesse's LG phone.
Have you looked at the download on that CD?
Yes, I have.
Is it a fair and accurate copy of the extraction you did in this case on Ms. Kurczewski's phone?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I move exhibit 168 into evidence. Well, I'll just move it at this point.
No objection.
Exhibit 168 is received.
Thank you, Detective. So again, similarly with the first set we did, would it be fair to say that exhibits 167 and 168, they go together?
That is correct.
So is exhibit 167 just the first 2 pages of what's on this disc?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just going to put these together and set these up here. Detective, I just have a couple other questions for you. It sounds like you've got, you talked about your training and you were in the lab for several years working on these kinds of devices. Is that correct?
That is correct.
When someone uses a cell phone to make a call, generally the person receiving the call sees the phone number associated with that device, right?
That is correct.
Through your training and experience, do you know whether it would be possible for someone to make and receive calls on a device but have it display a different phone number than that associated with the actual device.
Yes, that is possible.
Could you just talk about that generally?
Tell us how it's possible. So Jessy used an app so that when she calls, it will look like a different number. My goodness. Remember like Chris Watts had his little calculator app to store pictures of Nicole Kessinger? Well, Jessy had a little app to change her number. I always like these little apps, you know, that they show the criminals have. They're like, oh, look at what they tried to do. Sneaky, sneaky.
Please.
There's different applications or apps that you can install on your cell phone that will give you a different number than what your, say, your Verizon or AT&T actual phone number is.
So how does the original phone number from your provider still exist on that device?
Yes, it does.
But the person could also use a different number on the same device?
That's also correct, yes.
Would it be possible to use multiple different phone numbers from one device?
Yes.
Have you seen that before in phones that you've downloaded?
Yes, I have.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Any cross?
No, Your Honor, I don't have any cross.
All right, thank you, Detective.
No cross for that. Just like, oh, crap. Huh? What are we going to ask about that? Like, how do you know? How do you know? Nothing to ask there.
You may step down. All right, you may call your next witness.
Thank you, Judge. State would call Detective Schroeder.
First thing I will ask you to do is to state your first and last names for the record and spell each.
First name David, D-A-V-I-D. Last name Schroeder, S-C-H-R-O-E-D-E-R.
Thank you. Go ahead, your witness.
Damn it. Messed up on top there. I'm going to fix it now.
Yes.
Thank you, Judge. Detective Schroeder, where do you work?
I'm employed as a detective with the Waukesha County Sheriff's Office.
What are your current duties with the Sheriff's Department?
I'm assigned to our computer forensics lab. My primary responsibility there is to identify, acquire, process, analyze, and report on electronically stored data. That would be to collect digital data from cell phones, hard drives, computers, and then analyze that data. Along with that, I am assigned to analyze historical cell site location information.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm going to fix the name up there now. David Schroeder. Hold on.
Did you ever work with Detective Fredericks in the lab at the county?
I did not. I actually took his position when he left our lab.
Okay, so when did you start in the lab?
I was promoted December of 2019. It would have been within a couple months of that.
Okay. So when you started with the Sheriff's Department, how long ago was that?
I was hired as a deputy in December of 2014 and then promoted in December of 2019.
Okay. When you got promoted, did you have the opportunity to attend some specialized training to work in the lab?
Yes, ma'am.
And could you just give the jury a little bit of background about what kind of training that was?
For the historical cell site location information, that training, I've attended cellular record analysis training through the National White Collar Crime Center. I've also attended cellular record technology and analysis training through ABM Intel, which is a third-party training company for CellHawk. CellHawk is software that assists in analyzing these records. In terms of the digital forensics, I've attended several vendor-neutral training sites. Vendor-neutral means it's not specific to a software. So the majority of my training there would be at the National Computer Forensics Institute. That is a Secret Service facility down in Alabama. As part of that training, I've taken a certification to become a certified forensic computer examiner through the International Association of Computer Investigative Specialists. And then I also hold several certifications in vendor-specific software, which would be software we use, such as Cellebrite, Axiom, and Graykey.
When you do work on a case within the lab, does that investigation become yours at that point?
No, ma'am.
What happens?
I typically am in an assisting role. A detective could bring me a cell phone and say, hey, I'm just looking for you to extract the data, and then they would analyze it. Or here's some cell phone records. I need you to map these in CellHawk. Sometimes they request I analyze those records. Other times they prefer to do the analysis on their own. So it's really whatever the request of the assigned or lead investigator is what I do.
Okay. The jury just heard testimony from Detective Fredericks about these two sets of exhibits. They're cell phone downloads.
Correct.
So are you able to create reports like this if a detective gave you a cell phone to download?
Correct.
Okay. Is this type of information different from historical cell site location information?
Yes, ma'am.
How is it different?
Hold on, before you answer, just for the record, when you were holding up and saying this, you were holding onto the 2-page documents 167 and 169. Thank you. Go ahead, you may answer.
So the information that we would extract from the cell phone would be data on that physical device. That could include location information, but it would also be your text messages, your calls, and anything that's stored locally on the physical device. The cell records, or the historical cell site analysis, is conducted on records that are acquired from your provider. So if you use an AT&T cell phone, it's tracking, I guess, general locations based on the network, and we would acquire that information from AT&T themselves, not from the physical device.
And we'll talk about this more later, but do you know why cell providers collect that kind of information?
My understanding is it's for network performance and reliability. They're tracking that information to see maybe you're driving through an area and your call drops and everybody gets frustrated. If they can catch on to that, well, then they'll build another tower in that area. So my understanding is they're doing it to track different usage on different towers throughout their network.
I love it. Doesn't this just remind you of the Letitia Stauch trial when Kevin Clark brought all the details? Just like the whole timeline, the presentation, just love all these details, right? Tula says, former lurker saying hi. Hello to you, Tula, and welcome to all the lurkers that are saying hi lately. Kimberly says, I'm a lurker, just broke silence today. I'm so glad that you guys are breaking silence. We're a really friendly bunch. I think you're just like us if you're here, right? So welcome, welcome.
Is law enforcement able to call and ask for those kind of records whenever they want and get information about anyone's cell phone?
It would require a legal process.
Okay, what does that mean?
Typically a subpoena would be drafted to the provider, so AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, whoever it may be, and it would be a subpoena for records for a specific phone number.
Does there have to be some acknowledgement from a judicial official that it's an appropriate request?
Yes, a judge would review the subpoena or the warrant for record.
Okay. At that point, are those providers generally cooperative in responding to those requests?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is AT&T one of those providers?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to please display to the witness Exhibit 171. And Detective Schroeder, have you seen letters like this before?
Yes, ma'am.
What is it?
It's a certificate of authenticity or a certification regarding the records that were obtained. This one is from AT&T.
Is it important in your work to have a certification from that provider?
Yes.
Why?
Sorry to pause it quickly. Renee says, excellent coverage for sweeties, notebooks, and gel pens. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And you know I like all that.
They're essentially certifying that their records are accurate and it's whatever information they have in response to our request.
Okay. Does Exhibit 171 appear to be in a response to a request to AT&T?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And I'd like to show you Exhibit 172, which is another physical CD. And ask you if you've actually seen that specific CD before.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know you've seen that disc before?
I have signed my initials on it.
Okay. So do you know what files are on there?
Yes, this would be the response from AT&T for cellular records.
Okay. The records relevant to this case?
Yes.
Okay. Looking back at Exhibit 171 that's before you, would this document be something that's also on the CD that you initialed?
I don't recall specifically if it's on there, but typically it would be included with the records, yes.
Okay. The files on that CD, are they voluminous?
I'm sorry, could you use another word?
Sure. Are there a lot of files on that CD?
Defining a lot, there's probably 10 or 15 maybe on here.
In terms of if I wanted to print in paper everything on that CD, would it be hundreds and hundreds of pages?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Okay. So generally in your experience, when a provider responds to a request, do they include a certification for the records they're giving over?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that generally all contained in one response?
Yeah, it's typically, and I can't recall specifically for AT&T, but it's typically like a zipped folder that would come, and we can download that in an online portal, and then we would unzip or unarchive the records and see those.
Okay. Have you used the records on Exhibit 172 before?
Yes, ma'am.
Why did you use those records?
Detective Hoppe brought these records to me, I believe it was around August of 2022, and requested that I do some display some maps for like specific dates and time frames from these records.
So did you actually ask AT&T for those?
I did not.
Okay. Who gave those to you?
Detective Hoppe.
Okay. At this point, I move Exhibits 171 and 172 into evidence.
No objection.
Exhibits 171 and 172 are received.
So again, Detective, I want you to hold that Exhibit 172 up, please, and remind the jury, where is the information on that CD from?
This would be from AT&T.
Okay. In terms of what you were asked to do with that information, could you just generally tell the jury?
Yeah, so within the number of files that are on the CD is, for AT&T, it's called a Report AU file. That file, it's a PDF. I don't know how many pages, but at least hundreds of pages of PDFs that has individual network transactions. So every call that was made on the network, incoming calls that were answered or weren't answered, data usage, incoming and outgoing text messages, and it's all just about network transactions. It's not any content. So for your text messages, I may see a text was sent. I am not able to see what that text said with these records. In there is historical cell site location information, which would provide coordinates for the tower that was used to complete that transaction, along with sector information, which tells you which direction off the tower that signal was coming in. Somebody could go through the hundreds or maybe thousands of pages and map each individual record by hand. We have CellHawk, which is software that maps all of these very quickly, and then we can go in and analyze them and typically verify any specific points of interest to make sure that our software worked appropriately and read the correct data.
Were you able to compile some information requested by Detective Hoppe in this case?
Detective Hoppe will be on later. Nadine, welcome back to Grizzly membership. Welcome to Grizzly supporter. To answer your question that you had earlier, just scroll down or go to the community tab. And if you scroll a little bit down from, I don't know how long ago, you will find all the answers there and on the members only playlist.
Yes.
Is that in the form of those maps that you just talked about?
Correct.
Okay. I'd like to show the witness only, please, 173. And Detective, let me know if it's before you.
I can see it.
Okay. And if we can slowly scroll through the slides, please. Detective, do you recognize Exhibit 173?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It is a PowerPoint presentation that I created. The first several slides are basic
Presentation time. We love that.
information regarding cell towers, similar to how I just explained. Then they're followed by several slides that are specific screenshots of a map that will show records specific to the request from Detective Hoppe. There's then a demonstration of an animation of those records that is not relevant to this case, but it presents a demonstration of what they're going to see. And then the last slide would be a full animation of a cell phone being, I guess, moving throughout the day.
Okay. Does it look like a fair and accurate copy of the...
Do you remember the presentation during the Burgos Aviles trial as well? That was so brilliant, right? A lot of trials have had really great presentations. So let's have a look at this one. Maggie Beth says, hugs to all the lurkers who haven't popped up yet. Yes, and welcome. Don't feel shy, but also don't worry if you don't want to chat, because I'm a professional lurker myself. Lurking all over the place.
The report, so to say, that you created in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd move Exhibit 173 into evidence, ask for permission to publish.
No objection.
Exhibit 173 is received. Permission to publish is granted.
And Detective, what's that number on the top of slide 1?
That would be the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department incident report number specific to this incident.
Okay. And then both your name and Detective Hoppe's name is on the front page, is that true?
Correct.
Okay, so if we can please go to slide 2. You've included some information. Is this information that you've used before in your professional capacity?
Yes, ma'am.
Would it be fair to say sometimes it's hard to understand these things?
I would definitely agree with that.
Okay, so I'd like you to please walk the jury through some of the basic things that it's important for them to understand before we look at any maps, please.
Okay, so a cell phone is a radio.
Did they just say maps? Oh, they're going to do map time. Oh, my goodness.
It uses radio frequencies to communicate with towers on the network. If your cell phone's on and you're moving or you're sitting here and it's on, it's constantly scanning the network looking for towers available to it, so that the second you decide to pick that device up and make a phone call, it already has that in queue and it's ready to know which tower it should provide you with. It doesn't pick, generally, it doesn't always pick the closest tower, but it's basing its selection on the best signal and quality available to it at that time. Normally that is the closest tower to you, but again, it's going off of signal strength and quality. There's several factors that play into that. The biggest two are going to be geographical obstructions or man-made obstructions. If there's a cell tower, say on the side of a building, it's mounted on the side of a building, that would obviously cause an obstruction going through the building, or a large mountain. A cell tower might have issues getting the radio waves around that tower. So it's not always necessarily the closest tower to you, but it's going to be the one with the best signal at the time the network transaction is made.
Okay. Slide 3, please.
So cell sites, as I just kind of said, they can be anywhere. Some of you, actually most of you, have probably seen them driving around, whether or not you knew what they were. A typical...
Sorry that it's cut off a little bit, okay, but they're reading it to us, so don't worry. Steel Guitar says, and welcome to all the members joining. Steel Guitar says, that judge in the Burgos trial was so independently late that you could set your watch by him. I know, this is where this idea was born. That trial nearly killed us. The patience, oh man, the tardiness. Those lunch breaks, those tea breaks, when they're like, okay, 10 minutes, like 45. It was really tiring. So imagine if we had done this format for that trial. We would have saved ourselves about 70% of the time spent waiting around.
Cell site is going to have 3 sectors to it. Each sector covers 120 or approximately 120 degrees, giving that tower full 360-degree coverage. It's important to know that each tower is unique with an identifier. That number is not used anywhere. So an AT&T tower, each individual AT&T tower will have its own unique number to identify that tower and its location.
Can you get information about tower numbers from the provider, like AT&T?
Yes, we can request a cell site list. AT&T has location information in their call detail record or in these records. Some carriers don't provide that. They just give the tower identifier. We would have to reference a cell site list then to identify which tower or the tower's location and then use the records to show where that is.
Okay, thank you. Slide 4, please.
The trial judge is Judge Dorrow, and you might recognize the judge from the Darrell Brooks trial where Darrell Brooks defended himself, and it was utterly exhausting to watch. It was like dealing with, I don't even know, I can't even say a child because it was worse than like dealing with an argumentative, bratty, I don't know what. Ooh, it was so bad. This judge has so much patience. She's so professional. Judge Dorrow is the judge.
We're looking at a couple images on here. What's the one on the left?
So the one on the left is, I guess, a tower in full. You can see the equipment structure at the bottom, full of, I guess, cell phone tower equipment. I'm not an engineer for these towers, but there's equipment in there helping run the tower. The picture on the right shows those sectors that I was talking about. That specific tower has 4 antennas on each side. Those 4 antennas where, I guess, the gray area is, the gray arrow is pointing to, that would be one sector. So those 4 antennas are all one sector. And then you can kind of see with the triangle there that there's 3 sectors. Each of those would cover approximately 120 degrees.
Okay, thank you. Going to slide 5. What's the jury looking at here?
So this is a screenshot from Cellhawk. This is, I guess, what the records look like when we put them into the software. It's typically not going to...
And what do we see, Grizzlies? What do we see in that pink circle? Something we see in almost every case. Even though I don't do sponsorships, I'm never going to be sponsored by Walmart. Walmart's probably like, oh man, she's going to say Walmart again. Yep. Featured right there in the middle. Walmart. We see you, Walmart. In many cases, unfortunately.
to have all three of those areas shaded, but if we had a record that indicated sector 1 was used, just that top right area would be shaded with the 60-degree mark there, indicating that the cell tower or the cell phone used, if north is up, we'll say it used the northeast third of that tower to complete that transaction.
And what kind of transaction would that be?
Again, it could be a call, a text, it could be data usage, anything being tracked by the network.
Okay. And the center point of that, those three lines,
Yep.
then, what would be located in the very middle of the circle?
That would be the cell tower that we just saw on the last page, or something. That would be the location of the tower itself. It wouldn't necessarily look like what we saw on the last page, but it could look like that.
Okay. And again, is slide 5 something specific to the Jessy Kurczewski case?
No, this is just demonstrative.
Okay. Moving to slide 6, please. What's the jury looking at here?
This is very important. The shaded area that I had just talked about, that has nothing to do with the range of the tower. That shaded area is by default a half mile, and CellHawk puts that arc in there, I guess to make it easier on your eyes visually to see which direction the sector was facing. But again, that has absolutely nothing to do with the range or the radio frequency coming from that tower. And then it just kind of also shows that arrow coming out would be what's known as the azimuth. That would be the center point for the sector. So if the record indicates it's got an azimuth of 0 degrees, which would be due north, I guess that sector would go straight up, but it would cover anywhere from, I guess, 300 degrees on the compass to 60 degrees, being that 120 degrees.
Stuff like this is going to be so important in that Koberger trial, and the judge seems like he's going to be allowing cameras. So can you imagine? Once upon a time, during that arrest press conference, there were 27,000 people here in the chat. I wonder how the trial will be. If they're really going to have cameras in, if we can actually stream it, can you imagine it? So many Grizzlies being like, what? I don't know if there's a Walmart in there. Is a Walmart in there. Oh my word, I forgot about the Dickie suit and all that. And Debbie Torn says it's because they are everywhere. But we don't have Walmart in South Africa or Europe, actually. So we don't have Target either or Taco Bell. We have one Taco Bell, found one here. But the point is, isn't a Taco Bell everywhere? Like a McDonald's, like a Target, like a Home Depot. So it's still amazing with all these stores that are everywhere that Walmart just always comes up in these cases.
Okay, detective, I have a question. So if I put an X inside the red piece and outside the red piece, which is in white and you can't really see it, can call detail records tell you whether someone that makes a call is on inside the red piece versus outside the red piece?
No, ma'am.
Okay, is that kind of exactly what you were just talking about?
Correct. Again, the shading has nothing to do with where the device is located or the range of that tower. It's just to make it easier on your eyes to see which sector was used.
Okay, and we can clear that. I'll be lime green if we need to do that again. So moving to slide 7, please. Now this.
That's so true. Pinche Becky 0F's given. That's why the crime rate is low. People ask, why is there... There's crime here, but it's very low. It's because there's no Walmart. You're right.
This is that the data in the middle white boxes seems like a lot of numbers. What is that?
The report AU file that I talked about on this disk, this would be a screenshot of that information. So I guess working briefly left to right here, each individual line on there or item number is a record. You got a connection date, a connection time. The connection time here in that entire file is in UTC time. That is Coordinated Universal Time or Greenwich Mean Time. We would have to offset to Central Standard Time when we analyze these records. The seizure time would be how long, if I dial a phone number, that brief time that it takes to make the connection to the network would be your seizure time. The ET, which would be the elapsed time, is the duration of the transaction. The originating number is going to be the party that initiated the transaction on the network, or the phone number that initiated the transaction on the network. Down towards the bottom there, you'll see some records have 2 entries. Item number 4 there, the second entry is followed by an F, as in Frank, in parentheses. That would essentially mean that the top number, ending in 5792, called the terminating number, ending in 1039. However, that call was forwarded to the number below the 5792. That 9998 number is likely the voicemail line for AT&T. So any call that gets routed to voicemail, that's the number that would show on this record. The terminating number is, again, I guess the called number or the receiving end of that transaction. IMEI is the International Mobile Equipment Identifier for the device. It's essentially a serial number for the device being used. The IMSI is the International Mobile Subscriber Identity. Again, another unique identifier to the device. Following that is CT, or call type. I put a couple examples there. There's more than that, but MO would be mobile originating, MT, mobile terminating.
Just gonna go slightly quicker on this stuff.
Terminating, etc., which would indicate whether it's an outgoing call or an incoming call. I don't have a box for the feature. There's a lot of different feature codes that could go in there. It's tracking things such as voicemail, whether or not caller identification was present or if the call was blocked, things like that. And then the last column is essentially what we use for our analysis of these records. The first 2, I guess, lines there separated by the slash are specific to the provider. That's the LAC, which is the location area code, and then the CID, which is the cellular identity. Those are, I guess, for the network to track. It's specific to the network to track the tower or what tower it is. Following those, you'll see that there's coordinates, the -88, and looking in the top line, -88.05, etc., and then a colon, and then 43 dot, etc. That would be your latitude and longitude of the tower. The following colon there is going to be the
Okay, sorry about that. He actually talks quite fast.
sector information, or the azimuth. So
1.1.
in that top record, following the coordinates is the 120, or the number 120. That indicates that the azimuth, or the center point for the sector used, is at 120 degrees on the compass. So if you lay the compass flat with 0 degrees being due north and go around to 120 degrees, that is the way that sector is facing. Followed by some other information, which we don't use except for the last one, which is the time on tower. Some calls may use more than one tower. If you're driving down a freeway, a call could use 5 or 6 towers as you go along that freeway or on that call. In that case, you would see several entries in that last column for one transaction, and that last spot would tell you how long they were on each individual tower during that call.
So this piece in white is similar to what's on the CD 172 of records?
That's actually a screenshot that I took from these records.
Okay. So read that first originating number for us, please.
1414-514-1039.
And if I told you that...
Mai says, we are nosy. We want text. I don't need coordinates. Right? That's why I thought, let's speed this up a bit. Let's get to the text. But we'll be patient, right?
The jury has already heard that that number belongs to Jessy Kurczewski. Is that name familiar to you based on the work you did in this case?
Yes, Detective Hoppe identified these as Jessy K's records to me.
Okay, so if you open the files on Exhibit 172, would it be pages and pages of this type of information?
At least that report AU file would be. The other files may contain subscriber information and other information, billing records, that type of information.
Could Detective Fredericks have gotten all that information from State's Exhibit 168, which is a cell phone download?
No, ma'am.
So that isn't contained on someone's phone as you're walking around with it?
Correct.
Okay. If we can go to the next slide, please, slide 8. Now, at slide 8, Detective, do we start getting into a more case-specific?
Correct.
Okay.
And I've even darkened this and it's very difficult to see. Unfortunately, these exhibits that they streamed, that they streamed out there. Oh, man. But I tried.
And how did you know what date and time you wanted to display in slide 8?
Detective Hoppe provided me with dates and times that he was looking to display the records in.
Now, were you an active member of the investigative team for this case?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so if I wanted to talk to you about what happened on August 21st of 2018 between 7:45 and 8 a.m. in this case, what would you say?
I don't know.
Okay. Could you please go through what the jury is seeing that you mapped, nonetheless?
Yeah, so the next several slides are going to look similar to this, but on the top left, I have the date, August 21st, 2018. The time frame being displayed is 0745 to 0800 hours. That would be 7:45 a.m. excuse me, to 8 a.m. And I did convert this to Central Standard Time. On the top right, or I guess the top side of the right, is the phone number that I have, or that I'm targeting here, which is the number ending in 1039. In a list of all activity from the call detail records during that time frame I queried, there's two icons there. I think you'll see the third one eventually, but the globe or the circle looking icon would be a data event. So they're using data on the phone or on the cellular network. The one that looks like a telephone would be their incoming or outgoing call. And then towards the bottom, that last one with the telephone, you see there's what's called a first and a last on there. That would be what I talked about earlier, where there were more than one tower used. So it'll track each individual tower used for that network transaction. When I went through and I reviewed all of those points and confirmed that they are in fact using that tower, which you're seeing on the screenshot of the map there. And they all use the same tower, however, they're using two different sectors. So some of those transactions are using that sector facing due north, or it could be a little offset. I don't know the specific degrees on that. And then the other calls or transactions are using that sector kind of facing southeast. The blue pin on the map, which reads Jessy K's residence, is the address that Detective Hoppe provided me for Jessy K.
I'm gathering from the chat that you guys wouldn't mind a bit of a teleport here, because we can't really see this presentation very well. I wish they had dark mode. I have dark mode on everything. When I Google, when I make presentations, it's all gotta have a dark background so we can see. We are visual learners, right? So I could go forward a little bit. We had 2 hours 55 out of 5:01. So now I don't have the exact timestamp of when, exactly when the text messages come, but it's a little more forward. So let's go like this. So okay, see, so you can see these slides are terrible. Sorry, presentation visually is lacking, unfortunately. So I went a little bit forward there. Let me just see what's happening. Yeah, they're still going to show that. Okay, let's try go from here a bit.
You are trying to recover deleted information from a phone or hard drive.
We've got the cross-examination. Let's go here a little bit.
Whether or not you're able to recover it generally will depend on whether that sector of the hard drive has been rewritten with other data.
Generally speaking, yes, correct.
Or had been zeroed out intentionally.
Correct.
Also fair to say that text messages or other phone records that are contained within the physical hard drive of a phone are deleted periodically by the phone itself, depending on user settings, so that the log data just doesn't become overwhelming. Is that true?
That is true.
So seeing deleted records would not necessarily indicate somebody went in and manually removed them, correct?
True.
Also fair to say that people, for completely benign reasons, delete text messages, delete information on their phone?
I guess some people could, yes.
Thank you. Two questions kind of related to the location analysis based on cell phone towers. One is just for my clarification. When we're looking at a record of a given transaction, and we have, for example, an azimuth of, let's say, 270 degrees.
Okay, so let's go to 3 hours and 20. I found a different timestamp here for us now. We're teleporting everyone. Here we go.
I believe I have one sidebar, right, to put on the record. So that was, oh, there we go. Sidebar regarding 170. There we go. There was a question just on the flash drives, and we cleared that up at sidebar, even though the defense had been provided the CDs ahead of time. The information is on a CD, not a flash drive, because, and this had to do with my order ahead of time regarding the exchange of exhibits. I know, Attorney Navreski, you weren't here earlier, so I handed the 3 court copies just in case you wanted to put them in a DVD and look at them while the witness was testifying. So based on that, I received the exhibit, and I think that's it. Anything on that sidebar, Attorney Nicolai?
No.
Attorney Navrosky?
Nope, that was right.
Did you find your copy so I can have mine back?
Yes, I've got yours.
Excellent. We'll take those back. You all can have 10 minutes, and then we'll start back up. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. State may call its next witness.
Thank you, Judge. State calls Detective Aaron Hoppe to the stand.
Thank you. Have a seat. When you are seated, if you would please.
Okay, so now I can take this off. We've got Detective Aaron Hoppe. Janet says, give us Jessy's dirt, which is the best way to put it, right? We want to see the dirt, what you got in her. Okay, so there was a couple of teleports. Here we go.
State your first and last names for the record.
Aaron, Aaron, Hoppe, Hoppe.
Thank you. Go ahead, your witness.
Thank you. Detective Hoppe, where do you work?
I am a detective with the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department.
How long have you worked for the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department?
Almost 17 years now.
Okay. What was the first job that you had with the Sheriff's Department?
I actually started in corrections.
Okay. And then what?
I was promoted to deputy.
Did you go through the law enforcement academy in order to become a certified law enforcement officer?
Yes, I did.
As a deputy, were you doing patrol in a marked squad, as some of the witnesses have testified about here in this trial?
Yes, I did.
When did you move into the detective role?
I was promoted to acting detective in 2010, and then I was promoted to detective in 2012.
What is acting detective?
Acting detective was a position in our, at the time, the Waukesha County Metro Drug Unit. It was an acting detective position for deputies to get experience, and also as a detective as well. And you're placed in the drug unit for that time that you're temporarily assigned as detective.
Okay. What is your current role with the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department?
I am assigned to a DEA drug task force.
Does that have people in it from different departments?
Yes, we have people from all surrounding agencies, including local along with federal as well.
Okay. How long have you been in that unit?
This is the second time, so this is almost about a year and a half now.
Okay. Would it be fair to say that the detectives in the Metro unit may have a different outward appearance than detectives maybe in the General Crimes Bureau?
Usually, yes.
Okay. Do you have a somewhat different appearance than maybe a general detective would?
I probably have a little more facial hair than I normally would, yes.
So, have you also spent time in the General Crime Division of the Detective Bureau?
Yes.
Have you had the opportunity to move into specialty units throughout the time you've been a detective?
Yes, I've been in and out of specialty units during my time as a detective.
Okay. In terms of the casework that you've handled as a detective, did it include homicide investigations?
It did.
Do you have some special training in conducting homicide investigations?
Yes, I've gone to several death investigation schools put on by DCI or Wisconsin Department of Justice, the Division of Criminal Investigation, along with local death investigations.
Have you ever been part of an organization that has a goal of training investigators in death investigations?
Yes, I was on the board of directors for the Wisconsin Association of Homicide Investigators for several years until I resigned from that board this past year.
Okay. Throughout your time as a detective, have you had experience in investigating overdose cases?
Yes, I have.
Including ones that result in fatalities?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to ask you about the investigation into the death of Lynn Hernan. At this point in time, are you the lead investigator on that case?
I would say the lead for the homicide portion, yes.
What do you mean by that?
Obviously, during the initial stages of the investigation, once it was reopened, it was fairly evident that there were two major components to this investigation. One would have been the investigation into the homicide itself, and the second would have been the crimes of the financial crimes portion of the investigation.
Do you have a lot of background in white collar or financial crimes?
No, I do not. Most of the detectives who are assigned to white-collar or financial crimes have more specific training regarding that, and that was not my specialty.
Okay. In terms of October 3rd of 2018, did you actually go to the scene or Ms. Hernan's residence that day?
Yes, I was at the scene briefly.
On that day, what was your role at the Sheriff's Department?
I was in the General Detective Bureau at the time.
Okay. I think the jury heard, well, I know the jury heard testimony from Detective Loberg. Do you work with him as well?
I do.
Did you see him when you were on the scene?
I did. I actually knew that Detective Loberg had been dispatched to a death investigation scene, and I was actually heading to a separate investigation that I was conducting, but I detoured from that, and I actually eventually responded to the scene and met with Detective Loberg.
Okay. Were you inside the residence that day?
I was.
Were you there for a very long period of time?
No, I was maybe there. I was there about less than a half an hour.
Okay. At that point in time, were you assigned this case?
No, I was not.
Okay. Ultimately, you said...
I'm just going to pause quickly. Remember when Lynn died, at first investigators thought it could be an overdose, and they were conducting an autopsy to figure that out. And then after the autopsy was complete, they realized this is a homicide, and Lynn died from tetrahydrozoline poisoning, which is the main ingredient in eye drops. T-Tree says true crime content watching and reading leaves us Grizzly's guilty searches. Imagine our Google searches. Just imagine it. All the content we watch and the things we search, and when we get curious, like, wait, tetrahydrozoline. Okay, eye drop murders, eye drop poisoning. Were there any other cases? Especially because in the opening statements, the defense attorney Pablo Galavi said not one person on the planet has died from tetrahydrozoline or eye drop poisoning. Like, no, many have. There's murder cases with that. It's a simple Google search. So I'm sure we all Googled that, right? Yeah, so, but hopefully no one here will end up on trial. Don't do that.
That the investigation turned into a homicide, right?
Yes, we had learned of new information which led to the investigation being reopened.
When was that, approximately?
It was in January of 2019.
Was there a point in time when you actually were assigned this case as a detective?
Later on during the investigation, yes, I was.
Okay. Since that point in time, have you familiarized yourself with the different aspects of this case, including scene photos and reports that have been written?
Yes, I have.
Have you familiarized yourself with different pieces of evidence that have been analyzed or downloaded?
Yes.
Have you even looked at some of the financials?
I have.
Okay. Did you also play a major role in this case in terms of interviews that were conducted with Ms. Kurczewski?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that it would be helpful for the jury to see some of the major time points in this case as you're testifying?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so if you see to your right, State's Exhibit 228 is on a piece of foam board, and have you seen that exhibit before?
Yes.
And it's got limited information on it right now, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Like what?
Basically, it's there's some months of the year. We're talking 2018, and then and that's on the right side, and then on the left there's a couple dates from September of 2018.
Okay, so what I'd like you to do, there's a marker in front of you. I'd like you to pull that corkboard so that you can write on it, and I'm going to ask you to add some things to Exhibit 228.
Okay. You want me to pull it down now?
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Detective, in terms of that exhibit, there's one piece of information on the left side of the line. Is that true?
Yes, there is.
Do you see dates there already?
I do.
What are those?
It's 9/15/18 and 9/28 of 18.
Was that time period significant in your investigation?
Yes, it was.
Why?
This are the dates that we know that Lynn Hernan was hospitalized, the last hospitalization.
Okay, could you please write hospital near those dates on Exhibit 228?
Everyone hearing him okay as he steps away from the microphone? Okay, good.
Is there another date on Exhibit 228 written out fully?
Yes, there's October 3rd, 2018.
And what date is that?
That's the day of Lynn Hernan's death.
Okay, could you please write that near the date on Exhibit 228? Did you participate in what the jury's already heard about in regard to search warrants that were conducted in this case?
Yes, I did.
And when was that done?
July 9th of 2019.
Is that, is there a space on Exhibit 228 for July?
There is.
Near the bottom?
Yes.
Could you please fill in that date and write search warrant?
Sharpie time. I didn't cut that out. Quite like the sound of a Sharpie. Isn't it? Everything else is like, oh, no, not paper flapping, no coughing, no sniffing. Ooh, Sharpie sounds. Okay.
Do you recall when Detective Cole testified and the jury was shown an interview in this case?
Yes.
Were you actually in the interview as well?
I was present for this, yes.
Okay, with Ms. Kurczewski?
Yes.
And was that March 6th of 19?
That was.
Could you please add that to Exhibit 228?
Sharpie ASMR. Ah. We'll allow it.
Were you in the courtroom when Ms. Zabaniak testified?
Yes, I was.
And you're aware there was a portion of time where she was actually living in close proximity to Ms. Kurczewski?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that was about the fall of 2022?
Yes, it was.
Could you please indicate that at the bottom of Exhibit 228 and just list Ms. Zabaniak's last name next to it, please?
Feels like a bit of a time to teleport again, doesn't it? Okay.
That the defendant made in this case?
Yes.
And Detective Pleniff said that those came actually from the banks that were subpoenaed?
Correct.
Okay. Specifically Exhibit 105 from Citibank. Were you here when that call was played?
I believe so.
When, throughout your investigation, have you been able to speak with Ms. Kurczewski?
I have.
Have you been able to listen to different recordings that she speaks in?
Yes.
Do you think that you can identify her voice at this point?
Yes.
Okay. When Exhibit 105 was playing, did you also believe that was Ms. Kurczewski speaking?
100%, yes.
Okay. So, in terms of that call, I'd like to reference back to Exhibit, sorry.
Go. Also, I see a couple of people in the chat say that Jessy looks a little bit like Jodi Arias, like her demeanor and everything, and trying to look oh so pious, you know. So innocent, isn't it? I know she's innocent till proven guilty, but my goodness, the state is doing a good job at presenting their case, don't you think? So, Jodi Arias' attorney, Kirk Nurmi, I was on Court TV at a time with him, the once upon a time, the last time, right? And he actually said on X that with this trial, someone pointed out to him that Jessy looks a lot like Jodi. And he's like, oh man, I can't unsee it. He reluctantly, he had to defend Jodi Arias. That must have been a hard job. So yeah, even he's like, I can't unsee it now. Now it does look like her. Normally I deflect this. What's going on here? Go.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to need one moment. See, this is Exhibit 141.
I can.
And this was testified about yesterday. Detective Pleniff indicated this was Lynn Hernan's Capital One credit card account.
Yes.
And if we go to slide 2, do you recall specifically the information that was displayed in this slide?
Yes.
Was the information in this slide significant to you in terms of the homicide aspect of this case as well?
Yes, it was.
In fact, is some of this information things that you asked Detective Schroeder to map in this case?
It is, yes.
Explain to the jury why you did that.
Excuse me. It's basically we're trying to identify locations that we know Ms. Kurczewski was at or with and spending, again, or using credit cards linked to Lynn Hernan and not in that area.
On the top part of this exhibit, are there entries for September 2nd of 2018?
There are.
And again, this is a card belonging to Lynn Hernan, right?
That's correct.
And what locations are being used in the circled transactions?
Monk's Bar and Grill in downtown Wisconsin Dells, Castle Rock, Sitco.
We're almost at the text messages, okay? There's 6 more minutes or so, and then we're there. I just wanted you to hear some of this financial stuff as well, because where Jessy was spending the money is also interesting. As we know, buying her boyfriend's kids like laptops and Game Boys and buying shoes and then spending a lot at the bars and horrible.
Friendship, Wisconsin, I believe. Highway 12, Baraboo, Wisconsin. Another address, 750 Wisconsin Dells. Parkway Lake, Parkway Lake, Delton, Wisconsin.
Okay. When you saw these transactions, and fast forwarding a little bit, were you able to analyze the phone downloads that Detective Fredericks talked about today?
Yes.
On the bottom half of Exhibit 141, Slide 2, it looks like there's a piece of a download. Is that true?
That's correct.
Did you look at that in this case?
Yes, I did.
Is that part of a longer discussion that's consistent with the spending in the Dells?
Yes, it is.
Who's involved in the discussion about the Dells?
Scott Craig is sending a text message to, I believe it's going to be the mother of his child, regarding a trip that he and Jessy were going to take.
Is there actually a discussion that includes Ms. Kurczewski about the Dells?
I believe there is later on.
Okay, I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 200 and 201 in paper form.
I've put up a poll and I see that 290 people have voted so far. So if you haven't voted yet, vote now. Do you think Jessy will take the stand? 20% say yes, 53% say no way, and 27% so far say, not sure yet. I think there could be a chance. You know, there could be a chance.
Detective, have you seen those two exhibits before?
I have.
What is Exhibit 200?
200 is a portion of a timeline regarding the text messages from Scott Craig's cell phone.
So would it be fair to say that that exhibit is from Exhibit 170 that I'm holding up that Detective Fredericks talked about?
Yes.
And this is the download of Scott Craig's phone, is that true?
That's correct.
Now we're getting to text messages and Jessy does not look happy about it.
Is Exhibit 200 the entire download?
No, it is not.
Okay. Have you seen Exhibit 201 before?
I have.
What is that?
It's a demonstrative exhibit, basically some text messages that were picked out between Scott Craig and Ms. Kurczewski.
Okay. Is Exhibit 200 a fair and accurate copy of a part of Mr. Craig's download?
Yes.
Is the information in Exhibit 201 an accurate copy of that information into a more readable form?
Yes, it is.
Did you check it?
Yes, I have.
How do you know that you checked it?
I initialed it.
Okay.
I initialed each page.
At this point, I move Exhibits 200 and 201 into evidence.
No objection.
And ask to publish.
Exhibits 200 and 201 are received. Permission to publish granted, as to both.
So, Mr. Balkanier, if we could start with page 200. Detective Hoppe, I'd just like to ask you a few questions about it so that the jury can see what you're looking at there. Could we unpublish, please?
Stefan says, now comes the dirt. Yeah, the dirt is about to be presented. Look at her face now. It really looks... All hope has been lost.
And Detective, this is the 8 pages of Exhibit 200 that you have before you?
Yes, it appears so.
So, when the jury is looking at this, what What part of the phone download are they looking at?
Can the jury even see anything? My goodness, we can't. The Grizzly jury can't see a thing. So there's the phone numbers, Jessy and Scott. Okay, so let's just forward to the messages. Let's go just there.
And that uses that number. Is that important in this case?
Yes.
Okay. So if we can go down to slide 3, please. Now this looks more like messages might look on a phone, right?
Correct. This is more, again, what you're more likely going to see.
Okay. So would it be fair to say this is just an easier way to read a cell phone download?
In this format, yes, it's much more easier than obviously it would be than looking at 200.
Okay.
Exhibit 200.
So in terms of the pink boxes, what cell phone sent those messages?
That's going to be the cell phone belonging to Miss Kurczewski.
And then in blue, who is that?
From Mr. Craig.
Okay. If you could please read the content from slide 3.
Starting from the top at 1:49, I'm just going to say the hour minute for time's sake here. 1:49 p.m. Jessy to Scott, now find a place to stay for us. Presumably that's going to be please. At 1:50 p.m., Scott responds, "We're going to wing it." Shortly thereafter, he sends another message to Jessy saying, "We'll find something when we get there, LOL." At 1:52 p.m., Jessy to Scott, "OMG, oh my God, such a bad idea, babe." At 1:53 p.m., Jessy to Scott, "I would prefer to go tomorrow."
The way you read that was just classic. OMG, he's like, wait, oh my God, such a bad idea, babe. August 29th, though, 2018. So mid-September, Lynn was in the hospital. Almost didn't make it by the sounds of it, and Jessy was apparently upset that they resuscitated her, is her story. But here it's just like, woohoo, holidays, all on Lynn's money.
Presumably, please. And at 2:02 p.m., Jessy to Scott, "What about, so it's supposed to be American Inn in the Dells. We can get a patio, hot tub and room. It's in the Dells and it's not super expensive. Plus I get to use my AAA."
And slide 4, please. If you could continue.
2:06 p.m., Jessy to Scott, again, presumably please, say yes, I think this is good. Jessy to Scott, "Call me on lunch." That was at 2:11 p.m., I apologize. 2:14 p.m., Jessy to Scott, "Hey, you." At 2:50.
So I gotta pause, it's just too good. It's like, please say yes, I think this is good, question mark. And then it's like, call me on lunch. After that, hey, you. It's like he's not answering. She's like, hey, you. Like, does that even work? You can see this whole thread here. So manipulative.
6 p.m., Jessy to Scott, "Booked. I wanted to do it because it's the last room left with a king bed with hot tub and patio." And at 2:57 p.m., Scott to Jessy, "Okay."
And next slide, please.
He sounded very enthused, didn't he? She's like, hot tub, king bed, come on, babe. And then he's just like, okay. Look at his short answers, my goodness. He's like, no, screw the car wash. We're going to go over this now.
This is August 30th, 2018. So the next day, 10:39 a.m., Jessy to Scott, "Did you see our weekend weather, LOL?" 10:41, Scott to Jessy, "No." 12:54 p.m., Jessy to Scott, "And I got to go for car wash and bank." 12:55 p.m., Scott to Jessy, "Screw car wash, it's going to rain." 1:04 p.m., Jessy to Scott, "I know I want to see out the windows inside bad, out these windows inside bad." 3:14 p.m., Jessy to Scott, "I'm just leaving the hospital. Forgot I had to sign papers since we are going out of town, sorry." At 4:49 p.m., Scott Craig sends a message to 414-587-2664. "I just wanted to tell you that Jessy and I are going to the Dells for the weekend in case you need to get a hold of me."
And is that piece of data that's in Exhibit 141 in that financial exhibit?
Yes.
That message is?
Yes.
And you said it's important for the jury to know that orange person. Do you know who that is?
It's not the same number that's in the exhibit on 201 on the front page, but that number is important. I believe that's the number for Jackie, if I recall correctly.
Nonetheless, it's someone that received a message from Scott.
Correct.
On what day?
August 30th, 2018.
Okay, and finally on slide 6, is there some more communication there about between Scott and Jessy?
Yes. So this is now September 3rd, 2018, 4:40 p.m. Jessy to Scott, hey, hun, I'm going to head back by you. Food now or not yet? At 4:46 p.m., Scott to Jessy, spicy tuna roll, steak make roll, rainbow roll, sweetheart roll, transformer roll. 4:51 p.m., Jessy to Scott, nothing like spending $100 on a dinner after vacay. 4:51 p.m., Scott to Jessy, then don't shit. 4:52 p.m., Jessy to Scott, already did, not bitching, just saying LOL.
So.
Oh yeah, spending $100 after vacay when it's not even her own money. None of this was apparently her own money. She's spending Lynn's money. The inheritance that Lynn got. And opening up all kinds of credit cards and not paying them back at all sorts of things. Spicy tuna roll, sucky, mucky roll, rainbow roll, sweetheart roll, transformer roll. Ugh, nothing like spending $100 on dinner after vacay. She says, then don't shit. Already did. Not bitching, just saying. I think just saying is bitching. You know, she sounds like she is. She's like, oh man, I roll. Don't worry, I'll bring it to you.
So in terms of this content, does the time frame coincide with the expenditures shown to you in Exhibit 141?
Yes, it does.
Is this time frame something that you asked Detective Schroeder to map?
Yes, I did.
And if we could please unpublish and, Mr. Vulcanier, open Exhibit 173 and go to slide 10. And while that's being done, Detective, do you also have a background in using CellHawk?
I do.
Okay. Have you used that on your own for cases before?
I have.
Have you testified about CellHawk before?
I have.
Okay. And we're all set to publish, Madam Clerk. Now, Detective, this is Exhibit 173, Slide 10, that the jury just heard about with Detective Schroeder. Can you remind them or tell them why you asked for this to be mapped?
This was important because during our investigation, Ms. Kurczewski alleged that every time a credit card was used, every time there was financial information being utilized, that she was with Ms. Hernan, and Ms. Hernan knew about all of the usage of the card. For us, it's important to state that this card is now being used in Wisconsin Dells on September 2nd of 2018, and we know that Ms. Hernan is not in the Dells with her at that time. So, again, that would go against what she was telling us that.
Ooh, busted, huh? Busted. Katerina says, so she spent it all then murdered her? Anyone? Yes, in the opening statements, they allege that she spent all of Lynn's money, the $250,000, credit card, spending it on all sorts of things, and then they worded it almost like, it was something like, and then when she saw no more value in Lynn being alive, she saw value, though, in her estate. So Lynn was allegedly then murdered, yes, and then Jessy took the next round of money, which was her estate, and pawned off all her furniture, all her jewelry, and everything on top of that as well, and got rid of the cats. She forged one of the vet bills. It seems like she put one of the cats down, and the other bill she seemed to have forged, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But then she said private cremation, so we're not too sure exactly what happened to the cats, but it sounds very sinister too. She definitely didn't keep them and love them and look after them, or even just rehome them nicely. So absolutely no regard whatsoever for Lynn Hernan. And yeah, even though we can't see very well either here with these bright exhibits, I hope they watch this, you know, and just know dark mode will go a long way for presentations so that the whole world can at least see what the heck is going on here. But we could see a couple of map points, and when she went, they're saying to the Dells. It's near Marriott Lake State Park. Yeah, Jessy is still spending all that credit card money here, which is quite a bust.
Ms. Hernan was always with her when these cards are being used.
In terms of this exhibit standing alone, does this tell you whether or not Ms. Kurczewski was in the Dells?
No, just her phone. This is what the exhibit says.
Okay. What about when you couple that with the messages that you looked at and the financial data for this time period?
Now the totality of everything would say that Ms. Kurczewski was in the Dells at this time.
And remind the jury whose phone activity is being mapped on this slide?
Ms. Kurczewski.
Okay. Thank you, Detective. Now, We can take the publish down. In terms of the Citibank calls that I mentioned to you before, were you in court when, with Detective Plennis, 2 different calls were played for the jury to listen to?
Yes.
And
Like, what is she doing now? She definitely looks bothered by all this now. It seems to be affecting her.
were you also in court when Detective Plennis testified that both of those calls to Citibank were done on the same day?
Yes.
And was that day August 27th of 2018?
That's correct.
Remind the jury generally what the content of those calls was.
Changing information regarding the account.
And who was the caller?
Ms. Kurczewski.
In those calls, who was Ms. Kurczewski purporting to be?
Ms. Hernan.
And on August 27th of 2018, was Ms. Hernan still alive?
August 27th of 2018, yes.
Okay. I'd like to, please, Mr. Volpinier, if we can go to slide 9 of Exhibit 173, and Madam Clerk, if we could publish that, please. Detective Hoppe, is this date also something that you asked Detective Schroeder to map?
Yes, it was.
Why did you ask him to do that?
Obviously, we're looking at August 27th when the time frame with these calls were made. We know that Ms. Hernan was not the caller on those calls, and we were trying to identify the location where those calls would have been made from.
Remind the jury whose Citibank account was being called about.
Ms. Hernan.
Okay. On this map, what geographic area are we in?
The Hales Corners, Franklin area.
Now, there's a blue pin on slide 9, isn't there?
There is.
Is that information you gave Detective Schroeder?
That is.
What information was that?
That's the residence of Ms. Kurczewski's mother, Jennifer Flower.
Okay. Did Lynn Hernan live anywhere near that residence?
Absolutely not.
And ultimately, what
I love the answers. Absolutely not.
information can we glean from Exhibit 173, slide 9, Detective?
That again, the information that we were receiving regarding Ms. Kurczewski saying she did everything financially with Ms. Hernan present is obviously incorrect, since we know that Ms. Kurczewski was not in the area of Ms. Hernan's residence during this time.
Okay, thank you. Ultimately, were you involved in the search warrants that were done in this case on July 9th of 2019?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And you testified that you had been able to look at the phone downloads that were done in this case?
Yes, I was.
I want to ask you some questions about that, and you testified a little bit about it, but when you look at a phone download, is it organized in some way?
Yes, it is.
And how, in what manner?
Again, broken down. There is sections you can access as easier. They were broken down into categories, being text messages, contacts, web internet history, other categories, and then, again, what we like, timeline.
So there's a couple different ways to find information that you might be looking for?
Yes.
Okay. If you wanted, for example, to look at all the information on a phone about email activity, is there a specific section about that?
Yes, there is a category for emails.
Okay.
We're going to see some of those. Not that we'll see it very well, but yes. Caitlin Lewis, thank you so much for your $20 super stick. I really appreciate that.
Okay. Do you recall whether there was a section about emails in Ms. Kurczewski's cell phone download, Exhibit 168?
Yes, there was.
Was there some information that was significant to you in this investigation?
Yes, there was.
I'd like to show just the witness, please, Exhibit 189. And if we could scroll to the bottom of this page. Detective, do you see an exhibit number on this?
I do.
189?
Correct.
Do you recognize 189?
I do.
What is it?
It's, I believe that's going to be the email category from the download for Ms. Kurczewski.
Okay. Let me go back a minute. When you look at a cell phone download, is one way to look at it on a PDF?
Yes.
Does that have page numbers on it? As most PDFs, it automatically puts page numbers, correct?
Correct.
Are there also...
We are 4 hours in out of 5 hours of trial footage. Of course, we teleported past the first 2 hours, but yes. The Egg White says, as a lurker for 2 years, I finally caved because G is such a brilliant reporter of current trials. Thank you so much. You're from the UK. I love all the lurkers saying hi lately. I didn't know you just needed a bit of encouragement. Thank you for saying hi. Come out wherever you are. Can't stay hidden forever. Say hi. We're nice. We're a nice, friendly bunch. You'll see. Okay, here we keep going. And we are going to see some more police interview footage on this day as well.
Also page numbers on the actual PDF document that Celebrate puts on.
Yes.
Okay. So is it fair to say that sometimes cell phone downloads are thousands and thousands of pages long?
Yes, I mean, the reality is most people live on their cell phones. I mean, all our information's on there. So even the most limited user of a cell phone is probably going to have hundreds, if not thousands of pages. So the average user is going to have several thousand pages now.
Okay. In terms of the exhibit before you, Exhibit 189, is that just one single page from that download?
Right there, correct, yes.
Okay. Does that look like a fair and accurate page of Exhibit 168?
Yes.
I'd move Exhibit 189 into evidence, ask for permission to publish.
Any objection? No. Exhibit 189.
Why is she shaking her head? No. Any objection? She's like, no. They were not asking you, Jessy. They were not asking if you object. She's like, nope, no objection there. Okay, well, let's continue showing evidence then, shall we?
9 is received, permission to publish granted.
And Mr. Vulcan, if we can just zoom out so the entire page can be seen. And Detective, this is Exhibit 189?
Correct.
Okay, so if we could zoom in on the top piece of it. Throughout your investigation, was there a Gmail account that became significant to you?
Yes, we did learn of a Gmail account.
And was that attributed by name to Ms. Hernan?
Yes, it was.
What was that account?
Lynn Hernan 1955 at gmail.com.
Was that an email that the jury saw frequently yesterday when Detective Plennis went through financial records?
Yes, it was.
In terms of your investigation, however, people that knew Ms. Hernan gave you information about her daily life and patterns, right?
Correct.
Was the use of this Gmail account consistent with the rest of your investigation regarding Ms. Hernan?
No, it contradicted it completely.
Okay. Now, what is the significance of line 252, the top line, being inside Ms. Kurczewski's cell phone download?
Basically, the date is concerning.
Why?
It's 5/8 of 2019.
Okay, but more generally, you said this page is from a section.
5/8 of 2019. That was months after Lynn had already died, and yet here's her supposed Gmail account. Oh man, she's so busted. I'm sure they'll be wrapping up soon, right? Because she is so busted. Tomorrow, we're going to be looking at day 9 of the trial, and it's the whole day is police interviews, which I can't wait to watch with you. We are going to see some today because they get it started today, but we're going to have a great stream tomorrow, hearing all the stuff that she says to the police. I can't wait.
Of the download about email usage?
Correct.
Okay. Does this piece of the download tell you whether or not that email was utilized on this device?
It was sent on that device, and it looks. I believe so. Yes.
Okay. So, in other words, on Ms. Kurczewski's phone, there's activity that this email, Lynn Hernan 1955, is being utilized and accessed on Ms. Kurczewski's phone.
Object to leading.
Leading? It's data. There's no objection leading. It's data. We're looking at Jessy using Lynn's Gmail, which I'm sure Jessy made beyond Lynn's death. Oh man, this is terrible. Also, I saw 1 or 2 people in the chat say that you're going to go to this trial next week. There's a couple of Grizzlies. If you go, maybe you could, take a Grizzly water bottle along, because we've got those as well. We've got those in mugs, or maybe you could wear something. Grizzly. That'll be cool. Then you can spot each other. Also on, the links are all on grizzlytruecrime.com, but you can actually download the logo if you want from the one store, the Teespring one, and then you can print it out on anything you want locally, or, you know, stick it on something. You can print it out on sticker paper and put it on your mug as well. That's another way to do it. So I did that as well. So it's easy for everyone and affordable. I saw someone in chat saying you'd love merch, but you can't afford it. A really great way to cut costs is to download the logo yourself from the Teespring link and then just print it on anything you want. It saves a whole bunch of shipping costs and all that stuff, right? Ro, thank you for being a member for 10 months. You're like, crazy case. I know, right? Yes. Okay, let's hear what they say to the objection.
Sustained. Please rephrase.
During the review of the entire download of Ms. Kurczewski's phone, was she accessing Lynn Hernan 1955 on that device?
Yes.
I'll rephrase. Was someone accessing that email on Ms. Kurczewski's device?
Yes, the email account was being accessed on this device.
Okay. Can you tell the jury who was physically accessing it on the device?
I can't per se say that, no.
Okay. Nonetheless, that top line 252, what is that entry?
It's a timestamp, and the subject is here's the 15% off we promised you. It looks like it's a Kohl's discount.
In terms of line 253, what is the jury seeing in that line?
Timestamp is May 6, 2019, 12:09 p.m. This one appears to be from Capital One. The subject line, you obviously see, regarding twice, we'd like to help, and then a significant information in the body section.
Would that also be a record of an email accessed on the device?
It would, and based on my knowledge, I would say it would look like this is a response to an email that was sent to them.
Object to speculation.
Overruled, he may answer and explain.
When people use email accounts and they see in a subject line the letters RE one or more times, what does that indicate?
It usually says that there's been multiple communications with that email.
Can you tell whether the email in line 253 was sent outwards from the phone or received to the phone?
That specific one was received.
Okay, and what does the body say?
Thank you for providing this information. Visit Capital One. Hi, Lynn. I appreciate you sharing your situation with me. I am sorry to hear about your medical situation, but glad to hear you are on your, and it ends.
Okay. What's the date of that email?
May 6, 2019.
Okay, and on Exhibit 228 there next to you, you've marked the date that Lynn Hernan died. Is that true?
That's correct.
Okay. The column on the right side of this exhibit, a few of the lines have a red yes in there. Do you know what that column indicates?
Yes.
What?
It means that that specific item has been deleted.
So you were here when Detective Schroeder talked about...
Yes, shame. We were just bragging about other trials and presentations. Jean says, send them a tutorial on how to make presentations. Step 1, dark mode. Step 1, make it visually appealing. Dark mode, yes. Okay, step 1, dark mode. 2, make it visually appealing, because the jury will also enjoy that. They will like to see it and not get bored by, this kind of presentation. I feel like a lot of people worldwide right now might categorize themselves as visual learners because everything is so visual. We've got, freaking adverts everywhere you look, anywhere you walk. Never mind that we consume content all day, whether it's Netflix or YouTube or whatever it is. Of course, there's also podcasts, so you could listen to that. But here, if the jury wants to look, make it nice for them to look at. I know this is evidence now, but you know what I'm saying. Dark mode could go a long way.
Deleted items on devices, right?
Correct.
Through your own experience with analyzing extractions from devices, do you know that sometimes you can recover some of that deleted information?
Yes.
Okay. Is that true of line 253 in this case?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Going down to line 254, what is the jury seeing in this?
Another timestamp. It's going to be another email, May 3rd of 2019.
Can Can you tell whether that was coming into the phone or going out from the phone?
It says from Lynn Hernan 1955 at gmail.com to Lynn Hernan 1955 at gmail.com.
Okay. Was this? Go ahead.
Sorry, there's a no subject status, and it looks like it would probably be a photo that was sent.
Going down, please, to line 255. That is an entry. Does that involve the Lynn Hernan email account?
Thank you so much, Moonstone621. So basically, Jessy here is, as I say, she's using Lynn's account after Lynn had already died. I mean, the nerve.
Well, it's no, that one's not.
Okay, so going down to 256.
And I mean, it's probably an account she made in Lynn's name, right? So I'm just going to go forward a little bit here because they're just going to show us the same stuff.
The Witness Exhibit 198, Detective Hoppe, I'd like you to look at it. It's a 2-page document. Do you see that document, Detective?
I do.
Do you recognize it?
I do.
What is it?
It is a return that I received from Google after issuing Google a legal demand.
Would another word for that be subpoena?
Subpoena, yes.
Okay. The jury heard a lot about subpoenas yesterday too, right?
They did.
Is it fair to say that when you want to get information from companies or banks, usually you have to use a subpoena?
Correct, yes.
Why did you ask Google for information in this case?
We were looking for information regarding the Lynn Hernan 1955 at gmail.com account.
Okay. Does Exhibit 198 appear to be a fair and accurate copy of the response and record you received?
Yes.
I'd move Exhibit 198 into evidence. Ask for permission to publish.
No objection.
Exhibit 198 is received. Permission to publish granted.
Forensics Nerd says, did they offer Jessy a plea deal before trial? Because with all these receipts, she's toast. I actually haven't seen any. I was also looking, and I didn't see anything that said that, so I'm assuming not. But yet I don't know the answer. I just can't find anything that says that she was offered a plea deal. I just know she had a whole bunch of lawyers. Sure, like so. I think she's gone through like four or five different lawyers up to the point where now she's on trial. So imagine what they're probably watching. They're probably watching. Maybe they're watching with us. Are you watching with us? Are you lurkers? Be like, thank goodness I'm not there.
Detective, what is on page 1 of this exhibit?
Page 1 is the certificate of authenticity that we received from Google, basically a certification of their email or records that they're going to send.
Okay. What about on page 2?
Page 2 is the information regarding the Lynn Hernan Lynn Hernan 1955 at gmail.com account.
Is this the complete response you received about this account?
Yes, it is.
In terms of the status, what was the status of this account when you asked for the information?
Deleted.
Do you know when the service ended on that account?
And the service date was May 9th, 2019.
Is there information in Exhibit 198 showing when that email account was created?
Yes, there is.
When was that?
February 24th, 2018.
Now, generally, when you've received responses from Google, a lot of times is there more information than this?
Usually there are, yes.
Okay. Is Google sometimes able to give you IP address history?
They have in the past, yes.
Show us the IP. Barbara says, if Jessy is telling Scott Lynn is in a coma for 5 months, what does her mother think about Lynn's condition during that time? Well, we heard a few days ago in a police interview, her mother saying that she thinks this was all in Lynn's head. So that was horrible to hear all that. Like, I think it was in her head. And asking, like, was this for real or was it in her head? She was supposed to be her best friend, you know?
What is that for? What does that mean?
IP is obviously it's basically location data where that device was being used at the specific time, or location history where it has been.
And when you say where the device was in terms of a Google record like this, what location information is it giving you?
Internet data, basically the internet site or the internet IP address that the phone is accessing during that time frame.
Could it be what a computer was accessing?
Yes, I mean, any Wi-Fi.
But it all would be associated with the email that you've asked Google about?
Correct.
Okay. In this response, was Google able to give you any of that kind of information?
No, they were not.
Do you know why?
Basically, once the email is deleted, they're going to delete the records.
Would it be fair to say that you requested this information after the service end date?
Correct.
Can you remind the jury whether the search warrants that you did in this case at Mr. Craig's residence was before or after that service end date?
It was about 2 months exactly after the end of service date to that email.
Okay.
Katerina says a coma for 5 months. That was a lie. She wasn't. Lynn was not in a coma for 5 months. Jessy just lied to her boyfriend and said that Lynn was in a coma for 5 months. Which I don't know why she had to even come up with that lie. But okay.
Thank you, Detective. And now if we could please show just the witness exhibit 190. Detective, do you recognize exhibit 190?
Yes, I do.
Is that another piece of the download of Ms. Kurczewski's phone?
Yes, it is.
So if we again show the jury this pack of information that Detective Fredericks talked about, exhibit 168 and 167, is the exhibit you're looking at on this disc?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Again, is it a single page of the report on this disc?
Yes, it is.
Do you recognize it?
Yes, I've seen this before.
What is it?
It is, again, I think we were just talking about accessing different accounts and apps located on the phone.
Does a device keep records of things downloaded or installed on the phone?
Yes.
As it's used?
Yes, it does.
Does it keep record of, for example, if I downloaded PayPal app on my phone, is that record of when I downloaded it going to be on something like Exhibit 168?
Yes, it would be under installed application section.
Okay. Did you review the section of Ms. Kurczewski's download for those kind of installed things?
Yes, we did.
Is this Exhibit 190 a page of that piece?
Yes.
Is it a fair and accurate copy of the piece of the download that we're talking about?
Yes.
I'd move Exhibit 190 into evidence, ask for permission to publish.
No objection. Exhibit 190 is received. Permission to publish granted.
Okay, let's pause it there for a second. Frank Reeves says, can you imagine how you'd feel now if you had accepted gifts or meals paid for by Jessy? Imagine. I mean, it would be... like, one would feel guilty, and not that it's their fault, right? And just, it seemed like Scott, her ex-boyfriend, he must have thought about, like, he looked like he felt like that, like really sad. And he's just like, what the hell was this? Why would she lie about so much and, you know, pay for holidays and just buy everybody rounds of drinks and gifts? And it was all on Lynn's money. It must feel terrible. Miss Schmooby Cake says, I love it when the attorney says, what is it? Yeah, what is it?
And if we scroll to the bottom, Detective, is that exhibit sticker for 190 at the bottom there?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so I want to ask you just about a few of these lines going back up to the top. Well, and specifically, you flagged this piece of the download, right?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, Detective Hoppe, does what the jury looking at here appear to be what applications are on this phone?
Yes. Well, application's going to be, I'd have to look at this one specifically, but this looks like it's going to be part of the usage.
Okay. So the questions I asked you about the installed application, fair to say that's a different exhibit?
It's going to, yes.
Okay.
It doesn't change the install app. So
What, on line 65, is that significant to your investigation?
yes, it is.
Why?
Again, we're looking at a timestamp date of December 5th, 2018. The subject is a square deposit, and the location is the Lynn Hernan 1955 at gmail.com. And then there's a name and a number with an exclamation point after that.
Do you know if that name has significance to Ms. Kurczewski?
Yes, I believe so.
And what is it?
Isabella.
Who's that person?
That is the daughter of Scott Craig.
I want to talk to you generally, Detective, about accounts and opening accounts. Are you familiar with that process?
Yes.
Including maybe a financial account or a Gmail account or an application on a phone?
Yes.
When you create accounts, is it pretty common for the vendor to require certain things in terms of a password on accounts?
Yes.
What kinds of things might be required when you create a password on an account?
Maybe a capital letter, small caps, and then usually maybe a number, and then a special letter or assignment, exclamation point or an asterisk, something along those lines.
Okay. And remind the jury what date the entry in line 65 is.
December 5th, 2018.
Is that before or after Ms. Hernan's death?
It's after her death.
Is that before or after this Gmail account was created?
This was after the account was created.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have on this exhibit. Now I'd like to show the witness exhibit 180, please.
Caroline says, I heard the cats were adopted. Nope. We heard that Jesse's mom took them in, but then we saw a bill at the vet that was for euthanasia for one of the cats, and then there was another forged bill. I don't know if they were both forged or not, but the cats, it doesn't sound like a good outcome at all.
Detective, do you see exhibit 180?
Yes, I do.
Is that a 29-page document?
Yes, it is.
And can you tell in the middle of the first page what section we're about to jump into in this?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Can you tell from the middle of this first page what section of the download we're about to jump into?
We're about to go into installed applications.
And if we could please slowly, scroll through the various pages so the detective can see it. Detective, do you recognize exhibit 180?
I do.
What is it?
Again, this is the portion of the download of Ms. Kurczewski's cell phone.
Were the installed applications section of the download significant to you in your investigation?
Yes, it was.
To be fair, is there necessarily relevant information on all 29 of these pages?
No.
Okay. I'd like to show the witness exhibit 181.
We've got some fluff in here.
And if the downloads in this case, have you helped construct demonstrative exhibits that pulls pieces out in an easier format to read?
Yes.
Okay. Is exhibit 181 one of those exhibits?
It would be, yes.
Can you see it before you?
I can.
Is this specifically related to the installed application data you just looked at in exhibit 180?
Yes, it is.
Are these pieces accurate copies from the installed application data?
Yes.
And do you believe that data is a fair and accurate copy of what's actually on the download?
Yes.
I move exhibits 180 and 181 into evidence.
No objection.
Exhibits 180 and 181 are received.
And I'd ask to publish 181.
Granted.
Thank you so much, Haley. I really
All right,
appreciate
Detective,
it.
if we can go to slide 2, please. So at the top, there's some information. Does that tell the jury where this came from?
Yes,
Okay, so again, the Exhibit 168 is the CD that I'm holding up.
that's correct.
Okay, what does that P1129 mean?
At page 1129, 1129.
Okay. And line 5 has been clipped out here for the jury. How come?
This is, as we talked about earlier, not every page has noteworthy information, but this is noteworthy for the investigation.
Why?
It's an installed application, which is the Adobe Acrobat Reader, PDF viewer, editor, and creator.
Can you tell when that was installed on a phone?
May 6th, 2019.
Could you please point on Exhibit 228 for the jury the date that you marked for the probate estate being closed in this case?
The estate was closed on May 23rd, 2019.
And is that shown on 228, the court board?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Can you point to it?
Yes.
Shame. What a presentation. We can't. It's unwatchable. Go forward a bit. Go forward a bit.
Or issued by the business at all.
Do you recall when Mr. Posa testified, is the time frame that he got those things from the defendant consistent with this installed application date?
Yes, it is.
Moving to slide 3, please. Now, Detective, are these all pieces taken from a different page of the download?
Looks like they may all be the same, but they're relatively in specific order, so not too far off.
Is there a page number at the top of this slide?
Yes, it's page 1132.
Okay. So starting at the top, line 37 is called Secure Eraser. Have you heard of that before?
I've heard of it. I don't have specific knowledge of it.
Okay.
I was going to go forward a bit, but let's just hear about the secure eraser a bit.
In your career in law enforcement, how many phone downloads do you think that you've analyzed?
Well over 100, hundreds of phones.
Okay. Your face, you kind of made a face when I asked
Yeah, the reality is most of our investigations now, you're going to include a cell phone. I mean, it's especially the ones that I investigate and have investigated in the past. The majority of my work involved a cell phone download, so it's numerous.
Okay. Have you looked at numerous sections of downloads for installed applications?
I have.
Have you seen these eraser type applications before?
Not very often, if any.
Okay. Do you know what they're used for?
The judge asked and answered, and he said he wasn't familiar with it.
Overruled, he may answer.
My understanding of it is that it is used, again, as more of an editor or to edit documents.
Okay. In terms of the remaining 4 lines on this page, are those applications pretty consistent between the 4 of them of what type they are?
Yes.
Were you here when Detective Fredericks testified about the ability to use someone's cell phone to call and receive on a different number than what's assigned to the phone?
Yes.
Have you seen those applications used on phones during your time as an investigator?
Yes, I have.
Is that pretty common?
These days, yes, it seems that way.
Okay, and can you remind the jury what the purpose of those kind of applications are?
Again, you're going to be able to utilize your phone, and you're basically having a spoof number pop up. You may be assigned that spoof number for a specific period of time, or maybe a one-time use, but mostly it's you're issued that number for a short period of time.
Now, in this case, you asked AT&T for some records, didn't you?
Yes.
Were those the records in Exhibit 172 that Detective Schroeder used to make maps in this case?
Yes.
Now, if someone is utilizing one of these kinds of applications, add a line phone numbers, free burner phone number, line 2 second phone number, if a device is using a number through one of those applications, are you able to then write a subpoena to that application and say, hey, we want the call detail records?
No, we do not get those records.
Why not?
It's basically what we call a voice over internet or a VoIP provider number. And I've never had any success and can't tell if anyone ever has. It's a untrackable number.
When you're working on a case and...
We're almost at the police interview time. I think it's 10 minutes or so more, and then we're going to see that.
You target a phone number as being really important, but you don't really know much else about it. How can you get records for something just based on the phone number?
You have to, again, you're getting a search warrant for records, you're trying to locate or by any means find out what provider may have that number. You're trying to get anything, try to get records for them.
But how do you know, like in this case, how did you know to write the subpoena to AT&T?
There's
Sprint or...
There's law enforcement databases. There's also public databases too. Obviously, law enforcement databases are a little more accurate as far as entering a phone number and finding out who the service provider is or any background information on that phone number.
Okay. So if I use AT&T for my phone and you typed my cell phone number into one of these things, it would tell you AT&T?
Yes.
Okay.
Possibly even subscriber information.
Okay. What if you typed a phone number into something like that and it was in reality one of these internet phone numbers, spoof phone numbers?
It may come up with a company, but there's so many now that you're probably not going to get a company name, but the information you're going to get is the VoIP, and which is the VoIP, short for Voice over Internet Provider. It'll literally tell you that that's what that phone number is associated to, which is telling us that it's basically an application, a number based off these applications.
Does that tend, in your experience, to be a dead end on that number then?
More than likely, yes.
But what if you have you had cases where you were able to find out some more information about a number like that from something in the download that was helpful?
Yes.
Like, for example, what would that be?
There may be some form in the communications. It may be saved under the contacts. It may be in text messages, the number itself. Someone's giving out the number, or it could be somewhere in one of the categories on the cell phone.
Has that happened to you before?
Yes, I've seen the numbers pop up. Yes.
Okay. In terms of this investigation, was it important to you to identify and get records for all the important numbers in the case?
Yes, very much so.
And did you do that for all the numbers that you could?
The ones that we thought were significant, yes.
Okay. Do you know whether there was a number in this case that was significant to you that you weren't able to get any records for?
Yes.
And did the jury actually hear about that number yesterday?
They did.
Was that number 262-421-5290?
That's correct.
When did the jury hear about that number yesterday?
That was one of the numbers that was given by Ms. Kurczewski while speaking on one of the phone calls.
To Citibank?
Correct.
Did that phone number also appear in some of the financial documents, like loan applications?
Yes, it did.
Okay. In all of your investigation and in speaking with Ms. Kurczewski, did she ever tell you that she had two different phone numbers?
No, she did not.
Is the phone number attributed to Ms. Kurczewski in this case that number ending 1039?
It is, correct.
Okay. Next slide, please. And Detective, what are we looking at here?
It's another application from page 1137, and it's a Sideline Second Phone Number app for business.
So we know she deleted applications. She also deleted PDF documents where she had made documents about household poisons. So it's getting a little lengthy with this now because we can't even see those exhibits properly. So I'm going to go a little bit forward now. Let's go here.
Hydrozoline in the toxicology.
Before.
Were you able to speak with Ms. Kurczewski again on July 9th of 2019?
I was.
Wait. I just want you guys to hear that. A little bit back. 3. Let's go there.
Based on the investigation, at that point, we were, again, beginning the stages of the investigation. We felt we had an idea where we were going with this, and that there was a potential for it to be a homicide investigation. We asked for a non-disclosure to be placed on the case, which basically stopped the medical examiner's office from being able to speak about the investigation with anybody except for obviously law enforcement.
And did it appear that that was what prompted Ms. Kurczewski calling dispatch and the phone call the jury heard?
That's correct.
Okay. In terms of that March 6, 2019 interview that you were in, do you recall Ms. Kurczewski ever telling you that Ms. Hernan had been drinking Visine and trying to kill herself?
Not at all, no.
In fact, do you recall what Ms. Kurczewski told Detective Cole about her thoughts on whether it was even a suicide?
I do.
And what was that?
I believe she did not think it was a suicide, and they were trying to find out what could have happened and what could have caused this.
Was this before or after Ms. Kurczewski knew there was tetrahydrozoline in the toxicology?
Before.
Were you able to speak with Ms. Kurczewski again on July 9th of 2019?
I was.
Was Detective Cole there also?
He was, yes.
Okay. Was that the same day as the search warrants in this case?
It was, yes.
She's looking extraordinarily busy now. Time for a double bust. You're about to be busted.
Is it fair to say that there's a lengthy series of interviews in this case that you were involved in?
Yes.
Okay. Have you looked at all of those many times at this point?
I have.
Do you know that there are parts of those interviews that are not going to be played at this trial?
Yes.
In fact, have you seen clips of those interviews to accommodate those portions that are not going to be played?
Yes, I have.
Did you watch all the clips of all the interviews that we're going to watch with the jury in this case?
Yes, I have.
Starting with Exhibit 202, I'd like to just show the witness. Detective Hoppe, are you familiar that in making those kinds of clips, that PowerPoint was utilized?
Yes.
Okay. And going to slide 1 of this exhibit, do you recognize this PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
What is it?
This is the initial interview that was conducted with Ms. Kurczewski once the warrants were conducted on July 9th.
And you've looked at each slide in this PowerPoint?
I have.
Are these pieces...
Just gonna pause. Caroline says, sometimes, Grizzly, you look like you're back in the cockpit from your former life. Well, it was called a flight deck. That was politically correct. We weren't allowed to say cockpit anymore. Can you believe it? Anyway, but I do feel like it because I've got 3 screens, busy monitoring everything. So sometimes it feels quite familiar, but it's so much better. Life is so much better with all of you. So thank you so much for being here. I'd be talking to myself and watching this by myself if it wasn't for all of you here. That's what I did before I started a YouTube channel. I was watching without the Grizzlies. I was lurking everywhere, watching all the cases and like what. So it's so nice to be together now for all these cases.
Fair and accurate copies of the interview that you conducted on that date?
Yes, they are.
I move Exhibit 202 into evidence.
Objection. Exhibit 202 is received.
I'd ask permission to publish.
Permission granted.
Now, Detective, slide 1 has some information on it. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. Going to slide 2, this is a still image of the interview. I want to ask you some questions before we start watching anything. Along the top, is that going to remind the jury of the date of the interview on each slide?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Looking in the actual video box on the top right corner, there's information in white up there, right?
Yes.
And what is that information?
Again, date and time section.
So you can see it, right? 7/9/2019. That was the day they executed a search warrant at the apartment where Jessy was staying with her boyfriend at the time, Scott.
Is that something that you or I put on this exhibit?
No.
Where did that come from?
That's on there. It's standard with our video equipment that shows the date and time that the of the actual interview or real time.
Okay. And did you notice that the time in that corner matches the start time in the lower left corner?
It does.
Okay. So for the record purposes, we've used that time ticking in the top left corner when we start and stop these. Is that fair?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Where are you?
We are
Image.
We are at the Waukesha County Sheriff's Department, and as it says on there, we are in interview room 1. We have 4 interview rooms, so this is obviously the one that we have labeled as room 1.
Okay. And for the purposes of all of these interviews, when Miranda rights were required, were those read?
Yes, they were.
And each time did Ms. Kurczewski wish to speak with you about this?
Yes, she did.
All right, with that, Judge, I'd ask that we play slide 1 of Exhibit 202 for the jury with audio.
Go ahead.
Did the court want to read the...
Yep, I have it. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you are about to hear and view an audio-visual recording. Recordings are proper evidence, and you may consider them just as any other evidence. Listen carefully. Some parts may be hard to understand.
They have a year to do so. And it's not atypical for our medical examiner's office to take the entire year.
Yeah.
It's just what they do. Our Dr. Linda is very thorough and methodical. Her counterpart in Milwaukee zips stuff off real fast. She takes her time. We have some questions about Lynn's daily operations, because you were the one taking care of her, right?
For the most part, yeah. I was the only one around, really.
Right, because she doesn't really have anyone.
6 months. No.
What would her day look like?
She didn't sleep normal, so I couldn't say she got up because...
Did she sleep in her bed, or she always stay in that... Okay.
She hasn't probably been in her bed for a couple weeks because when she came home from the hospital, she couldn't handle the height. She couldn't get up that high. So I would say...
Heather, were you asking, is that Jessy? Yes, that's Jessy. On the day that she got arrested. Yes.
Usually before that, she'd wake up 3, 4 in the morning. She didn't sleep good, so she'd be napping throughout the day.
Uh-huh.
And she didn't watch TV all day.
Did she walk okay?
Sometimes yes and sometimes no. Till right before the hospital, she could.
Okay.
During, on the way, we did an ambulance. She literally got out of the car at the hospital, and they said, "How are you doing this?"
Uh-huh.
So, they saw it. Her last 3 days at the house, she was falling. She would get up, but she'd fall. That's why I had the bathroom thing right by her.
Uh-huh.
Because she could do some, she couldn't do some. Sometimes she'd get up and get water. She'd make herself try, I would say, once or twice to get up, but it didn't always work.
Do you know why she went to the hospital the last day before her death?
She didn't go the last day before her death.
No, her last stay.
Her last stay. Physically, her body was shutting down.
She was weak?
She wasn't eating. She probably didn't eat in 2 weeks before. She was so dehydrated, and she knew she had to go. Me and her neighbor both said, you have to go and do something because your body is shutting down.
And what's the name of the neighbor?
I believe this is the day she was arrested. Search warrant was executed and they did this interview, and I think she was arrested later that day. She spoke to the police at least 6 times, so there's different interviews that we're going to look at tomorrow as well. They're going to actually break. We're only watching 15 minutes or so of this, and then they're going to break for the next day, and tomorrow we're going to meet again to watch all of it. It's a lot. It's a long day of interrogations, basically, which is great.
June or Judy?
Okay.
No. I don't have my phone with me. You guys know it.
Did we talk to her that day?
You talked to her that day. She was the only one who helped me pick her up when she fell off the ground.
Okay.
But I can't. It's not Judy. Judy's the other one, but it's in my phone. I know.
And we talked to her that day?
Yep. Yeah, she's all over. I gave you her information, too.
And was she taking her own medicine?
She was taking her own medicine.
But she didn't drive or nothing?
No.
So you would go get the prescriptions?
Yes. Walgreens knows me. They got to know me very well.
Uh-huh.
Even when she was in the hospital, she wanted a prescription because the hospital wasn't giving her her own prescription.
Uh-huh.
And I brought it in and I let...
Interesting, huh? So tomorrow we're going to be watching, it looks like over 3 hours or something. I'm obviously still going to just be editing out all the fluff. And so it looks like the first half of the day is a continuation from this interrogation. And then the second half is her in an orange prison outfit after being arrested. And then, so that would be the next day, she's, in Orange and doing another interview. It's going to be so interesting tomorrow. I mean, I know that the topic is very grim, but it's going to be so much fun with you guys tomorrow to watch this. This is one of my favorite parts of a trial. How about you? When we get to see the police interviews.
The nurses know that I went and got it for her, and it took it from her. I said, I'm just doing what she told me to do, but I want you guys to be aware, so, you know.
And were you paying for them, or she paid you back? Or was the credit card on file, or?
No. Sometimes I paid for him, sometimes she paid for him. I went both ways.
And Lynn was taking, like, oxycodone, right, or some kind of opiate?
I don't remember offhand, to be honest.
Because usually the pharmacists are paying to have an opiate. They were fine with you because you were the person?
Well, they knew Lynn very well at her Walgreens. And they also know me, and I was on file as who I was, but I don't know if she was taking us.
That was a slip and a half. I was on file as who I was. Oh, you mean all the other times when you're on file not for who you are, who you're pretending to be, with all your charges of forgery and fraud. Whoa.
She was taking her main...
I actually didn't notice it. Is she cuffed here? Someone in chat saying she's cuffed here. So maybe she was, the search warrant was executed, she was arrested and then taken straight to the police. Yeah. So I wonder. I thought she was arrested right after this interview, but she was arrested on this day. That I do know.
One was Xanax or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know about Oxycontin. I don't know most of them by heart except for she liked her Xanax. So, and then she had like a blood pressure, and I don't know the rest.
She's taking quite a bit of meds.
Yeah.
Like 20 of them, it looked like.
Those weren't all her prescriptions, though. Like, I mean, I shouldn't say that. They weren't for the time. She'd have meds.
I have to stop and remind you that at this point, they knew that this was a homicide investigation. Because Lynn's autopsy was complete, and they knew it's a homicide investigation based on tetrahydrozoline poisoning. So they're just letting her talk here. They're saying, oh, so she took a lot of medications, and what do you think about this? And she's like, oh, she liked her Xanax. I mean, come on, Jessy. Ugh, horrible.
And then the doctors would take her off, they put her on, take her off. So, I mean, she had meds all over her house. That was just the normal for her.
That was just the normal?
Yeah.
And was she taking stuff as far as you know prescribed, or was she kind of self-medicating herself?
Everything, for the most part, was prescribed. I know.
When I say as prescribed, as the doctor wants her to take it?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
Because my mom's an assistant living.
Yeah.
So I take care of the meds, and if something's not right,
I used to tell her all the time.
The pharmacy doesn't give me, you know what I mean? Like, if we run out of the pay, and they're like, no, you can't get it for another 10 days, then I start to worry what happened.
I used to tell her all the time, I would be gone. Well, sometimes I'd get her stuff ready, and sometimes she would, because I wasn't there all the time.
Okay.
So I'd be getting stuff ready, and then she'd be getting stuff ready, and I'd come back, and I'd be like, okay, I left, and you had this many pills of this. Or this of this. Especially the new ones, I knew because she just got them filled. None of it made any sense, and I used to tell her, oh, no, I'm fine. I said, what are you doing? That's not, you're supposed to...
Who's getting mad? Who's getting mad? How dare you imitate Lynn like that? That made me so mad right now. No, I'm fine. Listen. You better take that back. Oh, that was horrible.
Her set ones, and I don't know all of them, she'd take what she wanted. Mm-hmm. She took Xanax just because it calmed her down, or so she thought, and she felt good. I don't know, because I'm not a pill person, I've never been.
Yeah.
I take every...
Yeah, right. Firstly, yeah, right. And also, Earth Jessy, that's generally what Xanax is for. Yeah, anxiety. It calms you down and makes you feel good. Psh, this woman. Oh, how could I try not to snark too much? Okay, hold it in.
That's all.
I get you. We have a pill organizer. Did she use one of those?
No.
Because you really like that?
No.
Monday, Tuesday, Monday evening?
I've tried. Her pills wouldn't even fit in those.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So, when you said sometimes you set the pills up, like each day in the morning you come there, I mean, typically would you go there in the morning or the night? Or
I didn't have a set. It just depended how she was doing the day before and what she wanted or what I had planned. There wasn't...
Did she call you and say, I need you, or...?
She would either call, or I'd call her to check on her and say, how's it going? I don't know how many times she called me because she fell, or she needed water, or... I mean, I always stocked her up on stuff, but it was, sometimes I could be out there a lot and sometimes I couldn't. Mm-hmm. So it just depended what was going on.
Would you say you're out there almost every day then?
Yeah.
Especially...
Towards the end, the last 2 months.
The day of her death, you remember when you were out there?
I gave my state. Honestly, I don't at this time. It was in the morning.
Okay.
But I don't know exact time frame.
Were you there in the morning for a little while?
Yep.
Well, most of the morning?
Yep.
Did you remember if you gave her pills that day?
No.
You set them up?
No. When I got there, she was sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
I woke her up. We talked for a little bit, and I had to go to the gas station, or not the gas station, Pick and Save. I had a bunch of errands that I was putting off for days because I just didn't have time. I was tired.
I had to go to the gas station. Wait, not the gas station. Actually, I had to run some errands. Yeah, I was putting those off for a couple of days. Anyway, yeah, you keep talking. Let me make the speed normal for this stuff.
Yeah, she kept saying, "No, just go do what you gotta do, blah, 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 I'll see you later." And I remember before I left, I asked her, like, are your pills taken for the day? Do you need water? Like, we have a system, do you need this? Do you need that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want something to eat? And no, she said she was fine. I said, I'll be back in a couple hours. I just want to get the stuff done.
Okay.
And she was, like, pushing me to go.
So you got there in the morning.
Oh, she was pushing you to go. Yeah, right. More like you poisoned her with tetrahydrozoline and left her alone to die. Caretaker. She literally went and opened up a JCPenney's account when she left Lynn home alone. After somehow giving her a lethal dose of tetrahydrozoline.
I was roughly there maybe an hour, maybe 2 at the most. I don't know.
Allegedly.
Oh, for sure.
But you.
I mean, I had hand wrote her statement the day I left there.
No, I got you. And you probably didn't give her pills that day.
I don't think so. I'm almost positive I didn't because the last couple of days I really wasn't. She'd ask for water, or sometimes she would put her pills in. She had a certain something bigger that tasted really bad. Mm-hmm. So she would always put that in her yogurt pudding. So she would ask for like water or pudding or something.
She can't even get it right as her caretaker. Apparently her caretaker doesn't even know what she puts her pills in. Sometimes she put it in yogurt. Okay, wait, not yogurt. She would put it in her pudding. Yeah. Right, but you've also just said that she didn't eat for 2 weeks before she passed away. So what kind of time frame are you talking about here, Jessy? Oh, it just makes me so mad.
Something for me, a bring buyer or certain pills, the bigger ones, she would like crush those up or whatever. So she'd be like, oh, can I get this or can I get that? Mm-hmm. But I don't remember, because normally if I was there earlier, I would give her pills. Or I'd check like the day or, but.
You would think in 2019 they can make medicine taste better.
Well, you would think they just would have a better system so people don't have access to that kind of medication.
I had this brilliant take my daughter her tonsils out. And I'm wondering if she doesn't want to swallow the pills because her throat hurts, right? I don't think I've got pain.
Like, what a dumbass. She's literally like, yeah, you would think people would have a better system so they don't have access to those medications. Yet you're the one fetching the medications from Walgreens. She's definitely not smart.
Patch for Kim. Yeah. That's a good idea. You say you run errands that day, so you're there for an hour or two, and then do you stay? Do you run errands for her then, like Pick and Save and Target or
no? I mean, maybe a few things, like maybe I got water or something. I don't know offhand. Majority was for me, but I might have gotten her stuff too. I don't know.
Very busy with the water. The water she got her, all that water. Well, we know that. They speculated that. I mean, how else would the tetrahydrozoline end up in Lynn's system? Probably in the water. She keeps talking about the water. Sure. Fry, Ty Day says, just on a medical level, Jessy contributed to Lynn's death. She says Lynn was very dehydrated. That is so dangerous. Jessy should have reached out to Lynn's friends and Lynn's doctor. Mm-hmm.
So you went back home then? Because at the time you were living in Franklin, right?
I was living in Franklin. Yeah. I'm sorry, you're making me rewind here almost a year. I did write a statement that day. It has everything that I did and times. And
no, I got you.
I just trying to remember. It's frustrating because
You're sounding like Brooks Houck there, ma'am. From the Crystal Rogers case. We watched his interrogations recently as well, and he's like, all my little notes there, I've got my statements. Did you read those? Did you read all my statements? Because I've got it all written out for you. And you're making me think back, like way back. I don't know. I can't remember. She's sounding like Brooks Houck there.
I just don't understand why we don't have answers. I just don't get it.
Why? Because I didn't go to medical school.
No, I was excited thinking you had actually some news and.
there's some inconsistencies, and we'll talk about those. But I'm trying to get an idea of how stuff works, because everyone's asking me how the pills were taken. Like some of them are crushed, you said.
Yep.
And
some were and some won't. I don't know to what extent.
But you weren't, to me, involved with, like, we crushed this one every day.
No.
Because she was kind of handling herself. Her brain was still pretty sharp that she knew.
She was doing her usual. I mean, she couldn't, her biggest thing was mobility. That was probably the biggest issue, but she still got up to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't leave the house is what she didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't go and buy her drugs. I only got the stuff that she was prescribed. She had friends who gave her a ton of things back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh, she had friends who gave her a ton of things. So you're trying to make us believe that Lynn could not move, which is believable based on the speculated poisoning for however long. But yet others are bringing her all kinds of drugs. Not her. Look at her there. Not me. Sure, what a liar.
I don't know towards her death, but...
There's no...
And for the record, Detective, that piece ends at 7:25 a.m. I'm sorry, 7:31 a.m. Sorry.
That clip, 7:07 a.m.?
Thank you very much. In terms of, I want to ask a couple of questions before we go on to the next one. At this point in time, how long had Ms. Kurczewski said she was at Ms. Hernan's house that day?
A couple hours.
Did that change over the course of your interviews?
Yes, it does.
At this point in time, did you hear Ms. Kurczewski say Ms. Hernan was rushing her out of the house that morning?
Yes.
Did that fact change over time?
Yes.
At this point, did Ms. Kurczewski say whether or not she gave Ms. Hernan any pills that day?
She didn't believe she did.
Did that also change over time?
Yes, it does.
If we could please go to slide 3.
On slide 3.
It is 6 minutes.
All right, you can play that, and then we'll see where we're at.
Okay.
All the time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's frustrating because she wouldn't listen and she didn't care and it made her feel good. I mean, her Xanax, she went to the ER twice for her Xanax because she took it all and ran out. So then she was having like withdrawals or made herself withdrawals so she could go and get more.
Right. What a great way to talk about a friend that you care about.
Did you take her then?
Yeah.
And which hospital did you go up to?
We guys went to the same hospital. It's the one right down the road from here.
Waukesha Memorial?
I think.
Is it in Waukesha?
It's Aurora.
Aurora. Okay.
Always. She was admitted in there 4 times in the last 6 months of her life, at least. And once she was ambulance, or maybe twice.
Sure. Is she taking care of her own bills at the time? Her brain sharp enough that she's...
No, she did some things, but she'd tell me what to pay as well. She'd say, okay, this month I got to pay this month I got to pay this.
Like, did she have a car payment then, or...?
No car payment. She just had credit cards, like crazy.
What she's using the credit cards for?
No idea. Anything she wanted.
She buy stuff up, but she didn't drive or leave the house.
Well, I mean, at that time, no, but she still had bills. Or, like, when I'd go to the store from her, she had, the grocery card. She would tell me all the time, oh, I haven't used it in 2 months. Go get groceries on this, or go get... But she never, I mean, her finances were never an issue for her. She did what she wanted. She do this, do that. I need this. Here's this for taking care of.
Mishma B. Cake says, bullcock, this woman I cannot deal. It's really angering to see, isn't it? The way she talks about Lynn. Oh, my goodness.
I mean, her finances were never... That wasn't her issue.
She was sharp, though. I mean,
yeah.
she knew what she was doing.
Yeah, she did. I mean, she wasn't... She didn't lose her mind. I mean, she just...
Well, sometimes people, when they don't feel good...
No.
Like my dad died at the end there. Yeah. He just didn't care anymore. He didn't feel good and...
Well, I mean, she didn't care, but that wasn't about stuff like that. What she didn't care about was... Okay, today I'm going to have 4 pills. I'm going to take 10. Or, I mean, that was more... She wanted to
I'm talking about the bills, though. Like, he didn't care at the end, the last couple months. because I was taking care of everything.
Yeah.
My dad was always real meticulous about he took care of everything. That's just the way he was.
Oh no,
but he was just sick.
Yeah.
So, but she was pretty good.
Yeah.
And you said she had a lot of credit cards?
Yeah. I just recently found out how bad things were.
And when you say a lot,
everything with the
4 or 5?
I'm trying so hard. It's like, oh yeah, it was bad. She had a lot of credit cards. I just found out recently how bad things were. And then she laughs. That's all you. Lynn didn't know that you blowing all her... Sorry, I'm like up here now, look. Lynn did not know that you're blowing all the money. The inheritance money she got from her parents when her parents died. Oh.
Credit cards?
No, she had about 30 credit cards.
Oh, yeah. Funny, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
She didn't have a big house, though, with lots of storage.
No.
You don't know what
but it was
buying.
packed. Her house was packed. Well, she bought jewelry, she bought her car, she paid for everything outright, or she put it on a card.
Yes. Out of the inheritance money, $250,000. She bought a $30K Jeep, and she bought herself I think it was around a $10K, right? Somewhere around there. That tennis bracelet with the diamonds. That's it. She spoiled herself for once in her life with those 2 things. Sure. Christina, Casey, you're like game over. Thank you so much for your sticker. Yeah, and tomorrow is going to be epic amounts of continued footage from this day, as well as the next day when she's in her little orange outfit.
Okay.
So.
And her income was, she had Social Security, that's when the money was coming in.
Correct.
And she had some money when her mom died.
Yeah.
But no other sources of income that you know of.
No.
And you handled.
She cut hair on the side for a while, but
But not for the last year, right?
Yeah.
Because she was sick for.
For people she knew, but not me. I haven't heard of that in a while.
When did she stop, like functioning normally? Like when I say normally, she just got sick.
Well, she's been sick for years.
Okay, but.
So what do you mean, like?
Well, when did she stop cutting hair for her friends?
Oh, I don't know. That I can tell you.
A year, 2 years, more than that?
Maybe a year. But that wasn't because she was sick. It was just because she didn't do it anymore.
She just didn't want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know her. I've never met her.
No,
all I see is pictures. So I'm trying to get an idea of how she functioned or who she was.
She functioned normally up until about the last 3-4 months. She would go to the pool. If you ask her people in her condo, they all know her because that's who she hung out with. She walked around, said hi to everyone. That was her life.
Prior to the last previous to the last 6 months, was she driving then still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were you out there helping her then at that time a little bit, or mostly the last 6 months?
I was out there, but not like that. It wasn't helping her either. It was just out there.
Just out there?
Yeah, she's like family,
Oh, I get it.
She's like, she's my family, Like, oh, man, too much. We will have a members stream right after this because we're going to need it. Quick member stream after this, okay? I haven't set it up yet, so as soon as this stream ends, you're going to actually be teleported to tomorrow's live stream, and then I'm going to be creating the member stream, and then we'll just make sure you check the community tab and also check your notifications. You should get it. You should see it, okay?
For the last 6 months, you were kind of her caregiver. She was paying you.
Yeah, but I don't want to say 6 months. She functioned until the end. I helped her. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't even, I don't want to say she didn't function. She would be like, hey, can you go get water today? I don't want to go to the store. The people at the store know her. Mm-hmm. So they knew if she was having a good day, a bad day. She was good friends with, 4 checkout people at Pick and Save. It was unreal.
She seemed like she had one of those personalities.
Yeah, she did. She talked to everybody. Yeah. She would talk to, just a stranger on the street. You'd see her and she'd say, hi, how are you doing today? She was a great person. Great.
The last 6 months when she's not feeling well, are you out there every day, do you think, or almost every day?
Almost.
And is she paying you on a daily basis or by the week?
No.
Or she just?
It was all different.
Did you have an official arrangement that I make $20 an hour?
No, there was nothing. No, nothing like that.
So she would just.
However she wanted to. There was no, one day, oh, here's the check. One day, here's my card. Go get this. One day, it was no No set.
No set amount?
No.
I'll pay you $300 a week, nothing like that?
I mean, she'd help out. She'd tell my mom, oh, this month I'm going to pay rent, or I'm going to pay your car. I mean, she always was one of those people that helped everyone. There was no rhyme or reason for what she did, but I know years ago my mom helped her out DUIs and stuff in the past. She owed my mom a ton of money and filed for bankruptcy. So she's always came back on that, even though she wrote it off. She's always helped me and my mom, our whole lives. She's always helped us, you know. She paid my mom's rent probably.
And Detective, this is at 7:13 that this clip has ended.
That's correct.
Now, up to this point in time, has anyone told Ms. Kurczewski that tetrahydrozoline poisoning was the cause of death?
No.
Judge, there's still a good amount of this interview left. Over an hour.
Yeah, and it's 4:34, so we've had a long day, and even though we had a little bit extra of a lunch break, how long is the next clip? I mean, I know you have lots, and we won't get through all of it today, but is
12 minutes.
How do my jurors feel? It's okay to break. I'm not seeing happy faces on that, so that's okay. We'll break for the day. It'll be a good...
The judge is so nice. She's like, how do the jurors feel? She's like, I'm not seeing happy faces on that. Okay, break for the day.
Point to break. Detective, you can step down. I have to read them the instruction. You give it to Attorney Nicolai, please. All right, thank you. Be seated. Anything I need to address before we break for the day from the state?
No, thank you.
From the defense?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Then we are in recess. We'll see you all tomorrow morning.
And that's it for that day. So, can't believe how she treated Lynn. Horrible, horrible stuff, right? Sure. Okay. Carrie says, so for the last 6 months, Jessy was paid to be Lynn's carer, yet Jessy added that she didn't care for it all that time. Well, that's obvious, Jessy. I know, right? That is so obvious. Sure, Jessy. Okay. So that was day 8 of the trial. Yes, tomorrow we'll be looking at day 9, and your snark tanks will be so full because it's lots more footage from these police interviews. It's going to be quite a day together as Grizzlies on a Saturday. If you didn't have plans yet, now you do. Or you're invited to have plans. Let me say it like that. You don't have to be here, but you're invited, okay? We'd love to have you here. If you want to make sure you don't miss out on the notification when I do go live, make sure that you are subscribed. Tap it again. It should actually highlight for you in all colors now and everything. YouTube's changed a lot of things, so make sure your app is updated as well. And then click all so you get all notifications. And then I will see you there. This stream should now, after the outro, so if you just let the outro play, it should teleport you to the next stream, which is for tomorrow, which the time is normally very easy to calculate, but we've just had a clock change already in Europe, and you guys haven't yet in the States, and it's just like big calculations, like, wait, what? So you'll see it there. It's going to be around 5 p.m. European time at the moment, so I think that's noonish Eastern time. Welcome, Ms. LT. So what we're going to do now, welcome to all the members that joined today as well, and what have recently joined. We are going to have a quick members-only stream. We sometimes do this on a Friday, ironically. I don't schedule anything like that. It depends on the time I have available and the energy with all the work that I do for you guys. Of course, it's not because I don't want to. I just generally have a lot of work. But right now, especially because we teleported a little bit through some stuff there as well, I've got a little bit of time to chat to you about what we just saw. And I'd love to chat to some of you about the Charlie Adelson trial and how he took the stand and all of that, and hear your thoughts on that. So we're going to have a quick members only stream. This stream, after the outro, you teleport it to tomorrow's stream. If you don't get teleported, don't worry, we'll be sharing the link in the chat over here right now. Or just check my channel, even if you want to tomorrow, and check the homepage. The live stream should be there. Remember to click notify me so that you actually get notified, okay? And then members, I'm going to set up the stream right after this one finishes. I'll see you in 5 minutes, okay? So just look out for the notification. I'm also going to put it on the community tab so that you can see it there. All right, I'll see you soon, everyone. See you tomorrow. Have a wonderful Friday afternoon or evening or whatever it is for you, or if you're in Australia or Japan, Hong Kong, where else? Lots of people in all over the world, right? Different time zones. Then good morning to you if it's Saturday for you already. So, yeah, D Bank says, I don't understand what's going on with Judge Gold. A lot. There's a lot to talk about there as well, actually. Okay, so I'll see you all in the member stream, or I'll see you all tomorrow again for another long day of these police interviews, which I'm actually very excited for. Thank you, mods. Thank you, everyone. And patrons and everyone. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.